we will talk about the speech last night. Did you watch it? You're good with that because we talk a lot of politics. Boom! And welcome to the Big Honker Podcast, brought to you by Mitch Hall, Chevrolet in Haskell, Texas. I'm Jeff Stanfield with the world-famous Andy Shaver.
That's right. Get your vehicle, Haskell, shopping right now. You know, maybe you got income tax return money. I don't know.
I guess
something you would spend money on?
On a car?
Or new PlayStation 5.
I've got one of those already. I get that for Christmas.
No, that's what I've been seeing on like TikTok and everything.
Is what?
All these people that don't look. This is Christmas in April.
You mean for those people that don't have big jobs?
I'm thinking they probably didn't pay much in, and they're all spending their income tax money on
How
PlayStation
the
5.
hell do you get a tax refund if you don't pay in? A refund is getting money back you paid. Like if I gave you a refund, if you gave me $1,000 and I refunded you back $300 or $400,
yes,
that'd be $1,000 you gave me. If you don't pay in shit, but you get $12,000 because you got 4 kids and no dad, that's a bullshit deal. Sick of this. Our guest today is from Mundy, Texas. Graduated from Mundy. Hardin-Simmons. Not Hardin-Simmons.
No, Hardin-Simmons.
I'm sorry. Angelo State. My wife went to Hardin-Simmons. Anyways.
After she went to Angelo.
Yep. That's what screwed me up, the whole thing. Former Air Force pilot. Retired Southwest Airlines pilot. Mr. Chris Baker, how are you doing, sir?
I'm doing great. Thank you for having me on.
Look forward to having you on here. Speaking of all this tax shit, did you watch the deal last night with Trump?
I did, every second of it.
I absolutely loved it.
And I wanted to be asleep, but I couldn't.
It was very good. He laid out plans of what he's going to do, and the Democrats look like total douchebags.
Correct. Agreed.
100%. The guy from Texas, Al Green, man, I just don't understand what it takes. What was the lady's name that died? That was the Congress lady from Houston that died that just recently. The black lady. She was an idiot too. I want to say I can't think of her name. It's not Sheila Jackson Lee.
Oh.
Yeah.
I didn't know she died.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
I didn't either.
Yeah, but she's not in heaven. But anyways, Sheila, I'm pretty sure she did. Make sure she's not alive still. If she's alive, she's gotten muzzled all of a sudden. I think she passed away. Anyway, we had Sheila Jackson Lee, who was an idiot, and now we got this.
She died a year ago.
I thought so. And then we got Al Green, who they're going to censor, and he'll be out of politics pretty quick. And now we got this Crockett lady, and she's another idiot. I don't understand how these people get elected. I just don't.
I think it is city life.
Yeah, I agree with
I
that.
think it's, you just get, I don't think they're really involved in
They're getting paid.
Well, that's what they do. They hear promises.
Right.
And that's all they think about. And some of it may just be, here's my name and vote for me. I don't know. But
I don't understand. First of all, the guy had his cane and bitching and raising hell. He meant to get thrown out. That was his whole deal.
Yes.
And then he's already writing up, when it was over, he said, I'm writing up some articles of impeachment, which would be his second one to do already in the last 40 days. But that was the plan the whole time, to get on camera for him, I think.
Yes.
And then
I remember that.
And then
I think it was staged.
Oh, yeah. And then the ladies had their signs up, lie, Musk is something go, and this and all that kind of stuff. And I did not like Obama. I really didn't get into politics probably until, I don't know, the first argument about politics I ever had in my lifetime was when Bill Clinton was running. And we had an inner group of people I hung out with college, and there's 30 or 40 of us probably. And one of the girls in our group, a sharp girl, went to medical school, said, I'm voting for Bill Clinton. And I go, why are you going to vote for Bill Clinton? Guy, I was a Republican, grew up as a Republican, I guess. And it was just, my parents were Republicans, so I guess I was going to be. I really didn't know much about politics. She said, I saw him on Johnny Carson. He played the saxophone. You're going to vote for someone to run for president because some bitch can play a saxophone.
Yeah, but that's just being relatable.
Bingo. But that was the first thing I remember in my lifetime. And then one of my best friends is a big attorney, and he's a real conservative, and he laid out all the reasons why you shouldn't vote for Bill Clinton. And it was pretty. It was an interesting conversation, but that's the first political discussion. I mean, so sometimes people in the city and young people are really not educated on things.
Oh, I agree. One of the things, out in this area where we are, there was old school Democrats.
Yes, my grandparents.
Yeah,
and great grandparents.
And
Both my grandparents, both sets were Democrats too. John F. Kennedy, Democrats.
Okay, so but that's what you did. That was the old school. We're going to take care of the small towns.
Yeah.
I didn't get into politics until the Gulf War started, and I was sitting in my apartment, and I was a senior in college, and thinking about. I was in ROTC at Angelo State, and knew I was going to go be a pilot for the Air Force. So all of a sudden, I really got interested on what is fixing to happen with my life.
Mm-hmm. Was George George Senior in at that time? Or was Clinton in already?
It was Clinton when I actually started in the Air Force. It was
Okay.
It was like a year after I got in.
Okay. So George H. was already out, Clinton was in, and then George W. was coming in.
Yes.
Okay.
So most of my time, because Clinton got 8 years, if I'm not mistaken.
He did, yes.
I was in the Air Force most of his presidency. And I got to tell you, this is just my opinion, but everybody in our pilot world we just didn't like it. Couldn't stand it.
Really?
With Bill Clinton running it.
Correct.
Why?
And then you didn't feel like you were supported.
Oh, right.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, he was not a military guy.
Yeah. So
Where George W. was.
right. Correct.
The Democrats seem to be not in favor of the soldiers, where the Republicans seem to be. Seems to be that way now, too. Now, when John F. Kennedy there, he was an ex-PT guy.
Right.
Got injured in World War II, and he was a big military guy. Mm-hmm. So what was it like under... So how'd you go from San Angelo to... What'd you fly in the Air Force?
So I went to Reese Air Force Base for pilot training, which I flew the T-37 and the T-38,
Okay.
which I was a student. But I had already owned a flight school for 2 years and taught many other... I was a civilian flight instructor, but not a military pilot yet. So I went to Reese, and then I went to Colorado Springs, and I flew a Lear 35. The Air Force calls it a C-21. And we carried generals, congressmen, high dignitaries around the world. But then you also had what you call a deployment, and I've been to two places. One was Dhahran, Saudi Arabia. Mm-hmm. And then I went back for another tour there, and that was Prince Sultan Air Force Base. And our job still was labeled as dignitary service, but that's not what we did. I'm not going to speculate on what we did do, but we saw Somalia, we saw Yemen, we saw Qatar. We called it Qatar. Everybody says Qatar now, but we called it Qatar. And Oman. We went to all different kinds of places. We did all different kinds of missions. Some of them were very great missions, like maybe we did fly some generals somewhere. We did medevac. And then we did stuff that I'm honestly scared to talk about.
So you worked for the Alphabet Agency.
Yes.
Okay, got that in the middle of that. Okay, I'm gonna ask you this then. So when you went to Reese Air Force Base and you got to strap into T-37 or T-38, were you flying private jets before then, or were you flying prop planes?
No, I was flying prop planes.
I bet that was something else the first time you got to drive a 38 by yourself or T-37.
Oh my gosh, it was amazing. I'm telling you,
That thing right there?
that's it.
Yep. If you live in Wichita Falls, you see them your whole life going
Yes.
around you.
Yeah, those are the ones I used to watch over my farm that got me interested in doing that.
That's a supersonic plane, isn't it?
It is.
But they don't ever go that fast, but they're capable.
Oh yeah,
of
we
it.
do.
Oh, you do?
Oh, yeah, we do.
What? Was that plane ever a fighter, or has it just always been a trainer?
Well, that one specifically is platformed off of, and this is just, it's an F-5 fighter, but it's not an F-5 fighter because it's got powered down engines, doesn't have any weapons. It's a trainer. It is a supersonic trainer, and this is kind of funny. you either have an instructor that sits in the back seat and you as the student are in the front seat. And then they, after about 15 hours of 20 hours of flying, I don't remember, it's been too many years ago, they let you go out by yourself.
Oh, shit.
Now, you're not supposed to go supersonic.
But you do.
But you do.
Yeah, who's going to pass up that opportunity?
The problem is you burn so much fuel when you do that. You know, they're supposed to be about an hour and a half to 2 hours. It depends on what you're doing. Maximum of 2 hours of fuel on board on that thing. Usually about an hour and a half. Mm-hmm. It was funny. When you went out there by yourself, you had like an hour. Because you're burning way too much fuel.
Were you at Shepherd ever then?
No, I was not at Shepherd. I was just at Reese. Then I went to Colorado Springs, Peterson Air Force Base. That's where I did the Learjet. Then I went to Charleston, South Carolina, and flew the C-141. And then I went to Del Rio, Texas, Laughlin, which has been in the news a lot lately due to the borders. Mm-hmm. And I was an instructor in the T-37 there.
The T-38, that's that one right there.
Yes.
Now, did you do the touchdown? Did you go to Frederick ever and do the touch? Is that just the Shepherd guys that do that, where they go to Frederick Air Force Base?
I didn't ever go there.
That's one of the busiest airports in the world, or in America, because they get so much these training deals all day long. They touch and go all day there.
Right.
So how do people, because I've seen the videos like where they strap somebody in and then they pass out, but the pilot doesn't. So is that something that you get
training.
accustomed to?
It is. It's training. And and I learned this very well. Smoke, eat hamburgers, French fries, get fat, and you won't pass out. If you're in an in-shape guy,
Really?
Wonder why?
Because you're just, well, what happens is when you pull G's, you're basically, me and you, we're all sitting here at 1 G.
Yeah.
Okay. I weigh 220 pounds. If I'm pulling 2, I weigh 440. If I'm pulling 6, over 1,200. Well, your heart's here and your brain's here. Your eyes are here. All the blood goes down because you're pulling and all that weight's going that way. And you have to learn how to keep blood up in your head.
Oh, shit.
It's very tough.
Don't they have G suits or something?
The T-38 had a G suit.
What does that do? Make your body tighter or something?
Yeah, no, it squeezes. It squeezes your calves, your thighs, and your waist. Now,
just when it's pulling G's, or does it the whole time?
nope, the airplane knows. When you start pulling, it starts airing it up. I don't know how.
Oh, that's great. Amazing technology.
It is. It really is.
So it's all training. They teach you how to keep blood around your brain to stay awake.
It doesn't always work, but they do.
How many times have you passed out?
Don't remember.
Is that something that they do to the new guys? Like, hey, let's strap them in
Well,
and make them pull some
here's
G's?
what happens, and literally this is what happened. The actually T-37, which is a very subsonic Cessna trainer that the Air Force had for years, had the highest G onset factory because you could rip the stick. It had a high lift wing. This doesn't. The T-38 does not. So it had a high lift wing, so you could get them like that, and that's what gets you. And what's funny is we all have peripheral vision, right?
Yeah.
I mean, we may not be staring at it, but you know, if something catches our eye,
right,
we'll do that. Well, what happens is your vision starts coming like this.
Oh, yeah.
And it shuts down. That's called G-lock. G-enforced loss of consciousness. And so when if I was out there with a student and I'm teaching them and my vision starts going like this, you unload the airplane, get the G's off of it, your vision immediately returns.
Yeah.
Because your blood immediately goes back to the top of your head.
Yeah. What's the most G's that you can pull? Like what's like, is 8 or 9 G's, 10 G's? What are the astronauts doing?
Gosh, you know what? I don't know the answer to that. I know that some of my friends that flew F-15s and F-16s talk about 7, 8, maybe 9 G's even. I probably never got over, I don't know, 6, so 6.5.
We can make a machine that we can't possibly drive because it's going to kill us through G's.
Correct.
So that's why we're going to see more drones in the future probably too.
I would agree with that.
Yeah, I saw where they said that the next big war it was just somebody's deal was talking about drones. The next war is going to be fought with drones and stuff.
Well, they're going to be unmanned.
Yes, unmanned aircraft's going to be the new thing.
Man is the inferior product.
Yeah,
100%.
we've surpassed man.
Right. Correct.
And that's scarier to me than anything else. Like they could just fly a drone over you, and
Oh yeah.
like I always think people are talking about, we'll overthrow the government and all this other stuff.
Shit.
That is not the thing that you want. They've got heat detection, they've got radar. Like you're gonna go live on the river and be just unmanned, and nobody's gonna know about
50
you.
years ago, you had a chance.
Yeah,
Now, I got to tell y'all something. This was kind of cool.
yeah.
It was dark. It was early morning, and I'm walking with a deer rifle, parked my truck, and I got to walk about a mile to get to my deer stand. And I got in the deer stand, and
If this is a gorilla story, we're going to shit.
and a drone flew over me.
Okay.
Oh, right. Yeah.
And I'm like,
What the hell's this about?
what the heck was that
How
about?
high was it?
40 feet.
Was it a big one?
No.
Oh,
It was a little bitty one.
that's weird.
And then I heard that game wardens are starting to use those
Oh,
to watch people. So, and,
Does Larry have one?
I don't know about that.
I don't think our game warden out here does.
That's is that not an invasion of privacy at
No,
some sort?
you don't own the
'Cause they don't-
airspace.
No, I know that 100%. I get that, but
it
still,
was
at
weird.
some point.
It was
It
strange.
could have been your neighbor checking your deer from a neighbor. You can't do nothing against it.
It
There's no
could
law.
have been.
Andy's looking at me like crazy. You don't own above the ground.
I understand.
So if you take a drone, if our neighbor's over there's got a ranch, and I take a drone here and I fly over his ranch, I'm not breaking the law no more if you're flying a helicopter.
So if I want to sunbathe naked in my backyard, and the little
wouldn't do that.
and the neighbor kid has a drone, and he wants to, or the neighbor girl will say wants to, check out my.
First
ass.
of all, let's change this up.
The-
Your wife's
the-
good looking. If
the
Jesse's
housewife-
laying outside, there's a bigger chance someone's going to look at her.
Okay, let's say she's sunbathing
Okay.
naked, and pervert John across the street wants to, take a look. He can just fly his drone
Yep.
over my backyard
Yep.
and look down.
Yep. He can't film it and he can't sell it, but he can check her out.
Can I?
You can go around your neighborhood and look, but I'm telling you what, I live in the same town you do.
No,
There's not a lot of local talent, so you ain't going to see much.
And I have no repercussions. I can't
No.
take that drone out of the sky, hit it with a baseball bat if it's close enough.
You'll get in trouble.
Really?
Yeah, you
Yeah.
could.
You
Sure.
get in trouble. Same as shooting one down. You can't do that.
Yeah.
There's got to be some harassment. law.
No. But he's not harassing. He's just flying it over. If you put your clothes on,
No. If he's like in and out, you know
there's
what I'm
not-
talking about?
don't think there's much you can do.
Wow.
That was one of the big things. I'm a retired judge here. I was a judge for a long time. I mean, that was
Okay.
I hadn't been a judge in 3 years now, probably. And then I went through the COVID year. So for about 2 years, we didn't have to go judge conferences. Thank God, because it's the boringest time in your life.
Right.
But we were just getting into the drone
Right.
coming more and more of an issue. Like we're on your hunting lease.
Yeah.
Imagine South Texas. These guys are paying $30 an acre for prime deer hunting land down there. And you've got 1,000 acres and the guy's 1,000 acres next to you. You got a nice buck over there. Well, he can take that drone and push that deer. Well, that's against the law.
Okay.
That's harassment.
But there's
so the
no
animals
law.
have rights, but I don't.
Well, you just can't harass you can't push the animal. But he can get that up, and someone's going to call in and say, "Oh, bullshit, that's not against the law." I think it is. I don't know for sure that, but they can take that deal and look over your stuff, and I don't think they're breaking the law. Now, if it's waterfowl, it's a different rule because it's a federal migratory bird and you
Right.
can't do shit. But just to fly over and look at your shit, I don't think there's no law against it.
Right.
No different is if the rich guy next door owns a helicopter and flew over your thing and looked at it.
Right.
Well, you better hope criminals never get a hold of drones. They'll be
They have
scouting
them all the time.
They'll be scouting shit out, and
They use them daily.
nothing's safe anymore.
How many drugs do you think are coming across our border through drones now?
Oh, I can't even imagine.
Yeah, because they got some big ass drones.
Oh, I
have you
know.
noticed the big drones at night that fly here? They're all over all the time, and nobody knows what's going on. The
Right.
ones that were in New Jersey, we have them here. You see them all the time. Still, nobody's come out with them. I did see where a congressman from up north is trying to get that all declassified.
Yeah.
So you taught in this T-37, T-38.
I taught in the T-37.
But you flew a T-38.
I did fly. I was a student. I was a student in the T-38.
And it was only 15 hours of ride, and they let you fly on your own?
You had a syllabus. It was a classroom type. You had a syllabus, and whenever you were proficient at single engine maneuvering, landing, takeoff, aerobatics, formation, all that, they said, "All right, have fun."
Was it?
Not much.
Now, I know it's hard to get into fighter school, or it's hard to get through being a fighter pilot. That school? It's hard. Is it is tough and grueling? Other than the,
It depends. We had people that struggled, and we had people that excelled, and so it just depends on whether you get. Some people have a knack for it. It's just like anything else. I can't play a guitar, Somebody could bring up a guitar to me and I'd just look at them. Can't do it. Put me in an airplane. I can fly upside down all day long. I can look at the earth all kinds of ways, and it doesn't bother me.
Are you a book guy too, or just hands-on doing better?
Hands-on.
See, because I think there's a lot of people, like in World War II, a lot of those pilots, they couldn't write their name hardly.
Right.
But they were good at what they did.
Right.
And we just taught them. I think we overteach shit. Like to be a doctor, you have to get all these 4 years of bullshit stuff. Let smart kids go to doctor school right off the way. Teach them to be doctors with other doctors.
Right.
That's the way World War II pilots come around.
Sure.
The kid was on a farm and drove a tractor, and he's good with machinery. Well, they put him in a P-51, and he could fly it.
Yes.
So once you got your hands on, you were set.
I was. I graduated as a distinguished graduate out of my pilot training class, and I'm not trying to brag.
No, that's
what
just
you did.
It's piss poor dog that don't wag his own tail.
So, I did very well, and I've been comfortable with flying my whole life. At 19 years old, I thank God to my parents. I got my flight instructor's license. I flew Southwest Airlines. It's funny, I went to work for them after that, but I flew Southwest Airlines from Midland. I think we went to, I can't remember, Albuquerque and then L.A. I spent the night in L.A., bought an airplane for $8,000, little single engine propeller 2-seat airplane, and I flew it back from L.A. to San Angelo.
From LAX?
No, from Fullerton,
Oh,
California.
that'd be better than leaving LAX in a jet.
But yeah, no, that's a little old prop 100 horsepower airplane.
How many times did you have to stop?
Oh gosh, I stopped in Kingman, Arizona, and then I stopped in the Grand Canyon.
Oh, really?
And then I stopped in Albuquerque and spent the night. And then
Kingman to Grand Canyon, though, you just stopped because you wanted to go to the Grand Canyon, didn't you?
no, the guy I was flying with did.
Okay,
Oh.
because I said that's not very far away.
No, it's not. He had never seen the Grand Canyon, and he was going to be my first student, and he was, and he was paying for my gas to get back with
Right.
the idea that I get to give him some flight instruction. Basically, he's getting flight instruction for gas money,
That'd be fun.
and he goes, "I've never seen it," and so we literally landed at the Grand Canyon Airport, and we got on a bus. And they take you down to part of the canyon. And he literally got out and looked like this. And he goes, "Okay, I've seen it. Let's go."
Someone else in the room did that when he saw it.
I
was
guess.
like, well, that's a big hole. Okay, let's go. Let's go to
Let's
Vegas.
go. Yeah. So we headed to Albuquerque, spent the night. And then I think it was Roswell next. That was our next stop. And then San Angelo. We were worn out.
Oh, I guarantee you. What do you think, speaking of Roswell, tinfoil hat for a little bit, do you think that there was something otherworldly that we found there? Or do you think that was our own stuff, that like a mission that was under wraps that got out into the public? Because something definitely happened there.
Well, yeah, or it wouldn't be.
Right.
Right. It wouldn't still be going on today.
Right. But the question is it otherworldly or was it just some secret program of ours that...
I have over 20,000 hours of flight time at altitudes above 20,000 feet. I've never seen anything other.
Nothing?
Never.
That's wild. I had some guys here last year or this past hunting season that fly for DHL or FedEx. Do they use 777s now? Or are they 747?
I'm not sure what they use.
Whatever their big cargo deal.
Yes.
And they fly back and forth from China to Alaska. I think that's the big route is you go from China to Alaska to wherever they go.
Okay.
And they told me they've seen stuff because I asked. They said, "Yeah." I said, "You ever see the lights?" And they said, "Yeah," but didn't really get into And they were ex-military guys too that went from the military, but instead of going the commercial route, because they said they had the better deal. They said we don't have to jack with customers. We ain't got to jack with TSA at the airport. We don't have to do no damn. We go through a separate gate, go get on our plane. We take off. We wear sweats or shorts or whatever we want to, and watch TV and do whatever we want to an easy flight. 4 people on a whole plane, maybe.
There's a lot of truth to that.
And because he said, because one of the other guys was a commercial pilot, and he said all the shit that they said they don't have to do is the biggest pain in the ass by being a pilot.
Let me tell you, when that cockpit door closed, and I'm talking about years at Southwest Airlines, when that cockpit door closed, it was the best time in the world.
Quiet.
Right.
Because I didn't have to deal with the drama, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
you don't have to do. It's one thing after another. But man, once you're in the air and that door's closed and it's just you, it's wonderful. Well, you and your co-pilot, or you and your captain, depending on.
Well, you were a pilot when the cockpit door was locked and couldn't get in, right?
Correct.
So it wasn't before that. I was telling them the other day, I remember going to Mexico one time. We went to Puerto Vallarta. Had to been in the 88, 89 or something. The door was open. If you went to the front bathroom, you could talk to the pilot and you could look out the window. I thought, that's a cool view.
Yeah.
Because a whole different view than what we see.
Oh, it absolutely.
But that was back before they had the damn door was open.
Yes.
Good looking chick in a little bikini top. Guess what she got to do? She got to go sit inside the cockpit usually. And, you know, she go, oh, come here, sit down here. Let you sit for a little, you know.
Right.
So once that door was closed, you're in your whole world.
That's correct. Unless you need to use the restroom, and then you have to come out, and there's a procedure for that. I'm not going to try to disclose any security stuff or anything, but there was a procedure for it because we don't have a restroom up there. You know, you're on a 3-4 hour flight.
So Southwest, you didn't have no real long flights. What, 4 or 5 hours? Longest flight you'll have?
Yeah, that's pretty much it. Yes.
Did you have to go to Mexico ever? Had they started flying yet then when you retired?
I went to Belize. I went to
because you were a senior pilot by this time,
right.
so you're getting to pick where you want to go to.
Well, pretty close. Yes. My favorite was going to San Juan.
That's a beautiful place.
It's not that. It's just so easy of a flight.
Really?
It's quiet. The East Coast, especially the Northeast, is so busy. You get north of Raleigh, Durham, or that area, the radios, just like me having this headphone on, it's constant chatter.
Really?
And you do that for 4 hours a day, and by the time you take it off, you still hear. You're still hearing the same noise, and you're trying to go to sleep.
They don't have a way of bumping in when it's just your call, so you got to listen to everything. Right?
You got to listen to everything.
That would get old.
I never can, like whenever they had that crash in DC.
Yes.
I can't understand what they're saying ever. Like, I don't know if it's just the audio that we get is
I think it's
worse,
the lingo.
but I just never understand what they're saying. Like, because we had a retired air traffic controller in here 2 weeks ago. He understood everything they were saying. He's like, yeah, they told him to go behind. And I'm like, I didn't fucking hear that. Like, what are you talking about? Where'd they say that?
Yeah. Well, and when I was teaching students how to fly, one of the hardest things, if you didn't ever have to say a word over a radio or use air traffic control, I could teach you to fly all day long. Okay. The hardest thing is teaching them to learn how to talk on the radio.
Right.
And what we used to call it, gosh. Okay, so you have to hit a button to transmit. Okay. And you let off the button to listen. Okay. We used to call it like the brain disconnect button because as soon as somebody hits that button, they just can't talk.
Lose the word. Right.
Exactly.
Right.
I mean, it was.
But once you get used to it, it's simple, right?
It is.
But it's just.
That was one thing that I'd heard about that crash in DC was that maybe the helicopter pilot had their mic keyed and they weren't receiving information on what they needed to do.
That could happen. They were, from what I've heard, they were also using UHF, so ultra high frequency. So they're not hearing the VHF traffic, which is what all the commercial airlines are on. So military uses mostly UHF.
Well, whoever it was, she screwed up big time, or whoever was running that helicopter. I don't understand how you can miss a plane. I mean, it just.
I totally understand.
I don't get that. I got a buddy of mine that flies private jets, and I've got to fly with him a couple times on it. Obviously, I did not make enough money in my life because that is the way to travel. But it was funny. We landed at a big airport one time, and they take a piece of a book, and it's got every runway, every I'm sure every plane's got it on there. It's got the runway or the airport map.
Yes.
He sticks it on his little deal, puts it on the clipboard there, and some airports have how many runways are there at LAX or Dallas Fort Worth? 6, 8 maybe.
LA, there's 3.
Okay,
but every runway is 2 runways.
And they got 12,000 routes off of them to go to different gates and shit.
Correct.
So they pull you up there, and we're landing in a private jet. So we're going to land at the big airport, but then we're going to go to executive jet or somewhere. We don't go to the regular gates. But I was watching that, and I thought, God dang, every place you go, and every airport in the country is on there.
Oh, yeah.
And I thought, But it's so simple to them guys. I'm thinking I would be nervous. Like if you're flying a private jet, you're flying into big airports all the time.
Sure.
You're flying your little 2-seat Cessna. You're not flying into LAX usually.
Right. No.
But there'll be some guy landing one of them there. And I would be nervous as hell flying a private plane into a big airport.
And LA's probably one that you don't see a lot of private stuff going into. They're going to go to Burbank. They're going to go to Orange County. They're going to go
like Addison instead of Love Field or
Correct.
DFW. You go to Addison or
Correct.
you land in Meacham in Fort Worth.
Correct.
And that's where we would take off of is Meacham.
Yes. Right. I'm not saying it doesn't happen. It does, but it's, but here's the thing as a pilot, talking from a Southwest Airlines pilot standpoint or an airline pilot standpoint, it doesn't have to be Southwest. It's any else. We get used to, you're going to land on this runway and this is going to be your direction to your gate. Just like pulling into your own driveway. There may be 5 different ways to get to this house, but you're used to that one. And it happens over and over and over. It's only when you have to deviate from that, from a normal route, do you have to go, okay, am I supposed to turn here? Am I supposed to turn here? So you have to pay attention a little more.
What would make it deviate? Like if the wind was different on approach or something?
Well,
Or
if
they
you
were
land a
backed
different
up?
direction or you land long or you got traffic somewhere and they want you to do something different, it's tough.
Right. But most of the time, you're going to land at Raleigh the same way that you did the 4 other times that you went
Correct. And you're going to go to your gates exactly the same way.
there. Right. So you kind of have a map of each airport.
Correct.
Just from
You get
your
used to
experience
it.
there.
Yes.
And then they throw you a curveball. Hey, you're not doing that today. You're
Right.
like, oh, shit. What are we going to do now?
Yeah.
That is, I'd be so nervous on that kind of stuff.
What did it ever take you? Was there like a transition period where you're just flying yourself and then you switch over to commercial, and it's like, oh shit, now I'm responsible for 100 lives. It's not just me now.
Correct. I mean, that's why, I spent, let's say 9 years in the co-pilot seat.
Yeah.
And then before I went to captain, you learn a lot from the people you fly with because you're flying with a very experienced guy most of the time.
Do you fly with him most of the time or
No,
it's random?
It's usually 2 to 3 days a month. You'd fly a 2 or 3 day trip. It could be a 4, but you would be with that person all 3 days.
But you don't stay with the same captain like for 6 months.
No.
So you just might catch him again later 3 months down the road.
Right.
Just a random deal.
Just random. Yes.
Is that normal taking 9 years to finally get your captain? Or is that pretty standard?
Well, when I got hired at Southwest, everybody was captain qualified. It's a seniority thing.
Okay.
So if you're shorthanded or somebody got sick, you might be the captain,
No, wouldn't let you do it.
even if you're captain qualified.
You've got a license to be a captain, but you haven't been through captain training.
Okay.
But you have an FAA license to be a captain.
I'm assuming when you say captain qualified, you can fly the plane and do all that stuff.
Oh, sure.
But you're not used to dealing with all those headaches that a captain has to deal with.
Sure.
And that's what they're. And I'm assuming that's the biggest pain in the ass about being a captain, is all the crap in the back of the plane going on.
Well, and outside the plane and in the jetways. And
Who walks around and does the inspection, the captain or the co-pilot?
it can be either one, but it was mostly the co-pilot.
The co-pilot. See, if it was cold and shitty, it was you doing it, not him.
Well, I always told mine, I said, guys, listen, when I was a captain, I'd say, look, if the weather is really bad, I'm talking bad, cold, icy, whatever, I will do the walk around so you don't have to. I've just never seen it that bad.
Oh, that's good. Any times you really got nervous in all your time?
At the airline?
Flying. Did you ever worry about having a crash? Or did you ever have a day that you thought, oh shit?
In single engine airplanes. Yes.
But in a jet.
I got to say, no.
Never.
No. I mean, I dealt with stuff. It's kind of weird. And you guys being from out here in this area, you'll understand. Landing Las Vegas one day. I'm
wind.
looking. Okay, so as a pilot, and I'm landing, I'm flying, and you're looking down the runway, and it's just like driving into a parking lot with your pickup. You're gonna look right down where you're driving into. You don't look behind you or anything else. So I'm looking down the runway, and off to my left, I see I call them dirt devils.
Yeah.
Dust devil, whatever.
Whatever, dust devil, yeah. And it was big, and it's coming towards me. And I went, that's not going to be good. And I'm 50 feet off the runway, and it hits me.
Oof.
And the airplane it's spinning, so it takes your flight controls, and it bent me a little sideways. And I just shoved the power into the jet. I kicked it straight, got out of the area because I didn't want to try to land at that point. And came back around. My first officer, co-pilot, whichever one you want to call it, but we called them first officers. It took me a little bit to get him back in the game because it scared him so bad.
Right.
And the passengers, obviously, after we did successfully
I had to shit all over myself.
were scared. They didn't know what happened. And I can't explain that to everybody.
Right.
There was a few people that I thought we were going down. And I just sat there and went, well, we handled it.
Right.
We got it. But, those...
You weren't nervous because you were in control.
Correct.
And I wonder if that's why the co-pilot was so freaked out, is because he's not in control and he's thinking, would I have done this correctly?
Yeah, exactly.
It just becomes muscle memory at that time. You get in that situation and you just kind of, your brain knows what to do.
It does. And the thing about it is that the airplanes are so safe. Mm-hmm. There's so many redundant systems. There's so many, and everybody freaks out in turbulence and bumpiness.
I'm one of them.
The only reason to be afraid is if your seatbelt's not on, because if you lose a negative G for a second, you're going up.
Right.
You'll hit the ceiling.
Yeah.
And that ain't fun. That'll hurt.
I always keep my seatbelt on.
But it does not hurt the airplane at all.
And because other pilots, y'all talk about places that are rough, right?
Sure.
That's what a buddy of mine, my buddy's a jet pilot, he told me that.
Sure.
He goes, because I told him I used to really be scared of flying. And he's one, he tells me, if you hear them stewardesses, if they're up, everything's good. He said, they know when there's turbulence. He goes, now, I'm not saying you can't get some turbulence that they don't know about, but he said, most of the time, if a guy in front of you, 15 or 20 miles in front of you, or 30, they talk. And they say, hey, we just hit a bump spot, And that's why they'll come on and say, hey, it's going to be rough. Put your seatbelts back on. He said they know.
Yeah. We ask air traffic control all the time, do you have ride reports? Hey, flight level 380, which is 38,000 feet, basically, is rough. But 360, 36,000 feet, smooth. Request 360.
Yeah, real simple. Common sense.
I'm coming down.
But that's how you have to talk to them. You can't just go, 36 is good. I'm going to go to 36.
No, I cannot. That
caused some problems.
Yeah, that causes problems because you don't know who's down there.
Oh.
And which way they're going.
Yeah. So.
Same with jet wash, right?
Yeah, jet wash is real. It's actually not the jet wash. It's the wingtip vortices. And here's a way that you can't see it 99% of the time because you're in clear air. But you ever been in a boat? I'm sure both of you have been in a boat. Makes a wave.
Yeah.
Okay. That wave actually rotates under the water. We only see the top part. Mm-hmm. Same thing happens with a jet. It's making a wave. Okay. As it goes through the air, it is circulating and it's spinning, just like a wave off of a boat.
You're right.
And if you are in still air and you're following that guy and you get into it, it will rotate you.
Ooh.
And, if you're in following a jet and you're in a jet, you can handle it. If you were in a little bitty airplane and got little prop airplane and got into that, it could flip you all the way over.
Helicopters are real bad if they get in jet wash, right?
Yes.
So, like when the Blue Angels are flying, or the Thunderbirds,
Okay.
they fly awful damn close.
Sure.
How do they prevent the jet wash from jacking with them?
Well, they're not following right behind them.
It's not affecting it.
And those small fighter jets like that, F-16s and F-18s, which is what the Thunderbirds and the Blue Angels fly, the bigger the boat, the larger the wave.
Mm-hmm.
Those little things aren't creating very much wash at all.
Okay.
Okay. It's a heavy, slow. Think about your boat before you plane out, how big your wave is.
Right. Right.
So when they're slow and heavy, that's when it's really bad.
So a B-52 behind it would be rough.
It could be. You bet.
You ever got to fly anything like that?
I flew C-141.
Is that the big Galaxy? What's the?
No, that's a C-5. The 141 is actually gone. It was real big during Vietnam. It was the biggest, cargo jet then. And then the C-5 came along.
What's the gunship one that they have?
That's a C-130.
That's an amazing deal to see them shoot out of them side them damn guns.
I tell you what, that C-130 has been one of the best airplanes in the world for the United States. It has so many capabilities.
And they go a lot faster than they look.
Yeah, I mean, they're not.
Were they flying 400 or 500 miles an hour?
Yeah, probably about that. I don't know. I never flew them.
And they shoot, a 50 caliber guns out the side of them?
Something like that.
Could you, and somebody had a good question in terms of, what about all them the casings, though? They go in the plane. Because if they flew them things apart, they'd kill everybody they'd land
that
on.
it fell on. Yeah.
But that airplane, that C-130, there's different versions, different models, has got a multi-capacity roll. It just depends on which model you're flying. The one you're talking about is called an AC-130 gunship.
It's just amazing. What's amazing to me is the cargo they can put into them.
I know.
And then back that gate out and drop them in the air. And you imagine the first time somebody flew that and they said, we're going to open the back gate up. Like, bullshit. I saw a video the other day with a family went on a tour and they got to go on a tour of one of them and they got to fly up in it. I don't know who they were. But anyways, they said, when you open the back, you just set it. It's no big deal.
As long as it's not pressurized.
Yeah, it's not going to suck you out or anything. It was very interesting. And then I got a buddy of mine that's a ranger, and he jumps out of them to, whatever they do. It's just it's crazy what an airplane can do. But the really crazy thing is, people like me that are scared to fly, the chances it's safer to fly than it is to drive.
Oh,
I just don't want to be with 200 people that's their time to die at the same time as mine. Is what my problem is. But it's almost always pilot error when a plane crashes.
Most of the time.
In a multi-engine plane.
Correct.
Why do you think that we're seeing so much more of the bad part of air travel right now? Do you think it's because of the thing that happened in D.C. and the media is just picking up on it? Or do you think that our infrastructure and our planes are getting older?
I don't think it's the planes, and I don't know if it is because of that one.
Yeah.
It's like the Delta that flipped over in Toronto.
Yep.
The other day.
Yeah.
Everybody started talking about air traffic controllers. That had nothing to do with an air traffic controller.
What were they mad about the air traffic controller for?
I don't know, because they start on this DEI stuff.
Oh, right.
And, we're not hiring enough controllers. I'm not blaming anybody, but just from my perspective, air traffic control had nothing to do. Air traffic control just tells you when you're cleared to land. Now it's up to the pilot to land.
Right.
Okay. So, unless something happens to your aircraft mechanically that causes it to do that, it's most likely pilot error.
What do you think happened in Toronto that time? Like, how did they flip over? Just a rough landing and got
it was, that's my opinion.
Just too much of a bounce and
too hard. Yes.
Coming in. And what causes that? Just coming in too fast or coming in too vertical?
It's a shitty landing.
Oh, really? That's it?
That's what I think. I think ice, snow on the ground.
How much does that affect you when you're landing? Ice you got to figure it can't be good.
No,
you can't drive on it.
You take precautions to that. You take it a little easier. It does blur your vision a little bit. It changes your depth perception when the ground doesn't look like it should.
Right.
Blowing snow can change your. Well, if the snow's blowing, where's the actual runway? Because you can't see it.
Right. Right.
So you can see it down the road, but you can't see it right where you are.
Right.
And it changes things.
So is each landing a little bit different based on what you're seeing as you're coming down?
Absolutely.
Really?
Yes. Winds probably are the biggest thing.
Yeah.
Rain.
Are you getting a report of like what the wind and everything's doing on the runway? You are?
Yes.
So you can kind of game plan, but...
Yeah, you can also, a pilot can feel it. You can see it. I mean, I have a readout right on my computer. It tells me what the winds are doing. Mm-hmm. So, you know.
And then you just adjust everything right there.
Correct.
Yeah, that Delta one, that scared me. Because it's like, shit, because I always feel better like when we start that initial descent. You can always feel it. And you're like, okay, we're going to be fine. Runway's right here. I've never taken into account that the plane could flip over like it did in Canada.
Yeah, I mean, basically.
In Canada.
Yeah, that Delta flight that flipped over.
In Toronto.
Oh.
Wasn't it Toronto?
Yeah, but they hit the ground hard.
Yeah, that's what we were
That's
talking
what we were
about.
just talking about, yes.
I'd walked out. I just come back in. But I thought you meant the plane crash landed on its top, but it bounced off the pilot error, I'm sure.
I'm not going to judge, but that would be my guess.
You know, the DEI stuff that we're all talking about, or that they've been talking about, I'm a firm believer, like I did affirmative action. If I want some asshole operating on my heart, I want the best doctor it is. I don't care what color he is.
Absolutely.
I don't care who he sleeps with. I don't care if he wants to marry a goat.
Right.
I want a breast surgeon there is.
I agree.
I don't want to hire someone based on we need to have 3 Muslim Indian doctors. Bullshit.
Right.
I want the best doctor there is.
Sure.
And that's the same with a pilot. I want the best pilots that they can afford to hire that want to work there. I don't want you to have to hire. We're going to hire 100 pilots and we need 27 women. Bullshit. Give me the best 100 people that qualify to be my pilot.
Right.
And I think that's why we see some problems we're having these days.
It could be, without a doubt. I just believe that merit-based is the best way to go.
Yes, that's the way it should be for everything you do.
Right.
It's like the sports teams. They've got this Rooney Rule in the NFL. They got to interview so many minority candidates. I'm a billionaire. I own a football team. I've done something in my life to accumulate at least $20 billion to buy a football team nowadays. I ought to be able to hire who the hell I want to.
Sure.
That guy didn't buy that team wants to lose.
Right.
He's going to hire the best coach he thinks for that job.
Sure.
And I think it should be that way in all business. I think and that's why I'm so glad we're getting rid of this
They
DEI
did
shit.
just come in too hot because it looks like the right side of
there,
that fan.
bam. He just
Too fast.
Well,
hit
they're
too hard.
lucky that there wasn't a bunch of people killed on that thing.
You know what? I when I saw that people survived that, I just said, "Thank you, God."
I can promise you that would probably be my last flight if I survived that. I really don't think I'm already not comfortable, and I fly enough that it shouldn't bother me at all. And I did. I had a customer this year, and I told him I don't like to fly. And he goes, "You fly a lot." I said, "I don't like to fly." He's got a brother-in-law, he says, that flies 100 times a year. And he said, "I'm telling you right now, he almost has to take something to get on an airplane."
Yeah.
And 100 times a year, you'd think it'd be just second nature. But
Yeah.
it bothers the hell out of me. My grandkids, they just love it.
I don't fly hardly at all anymore, but it's not for the safety reason. I've been through so many airports and security. I don't want to go anywhere.
Right. Yeah.
Do you not like flying with someone else in charge other than you?
No, I've flown with if I fly, I usually fly Southwest Airlines because I can fly for free. It's standby, but I can do it. But I have enough rewards points from my credit card I can get a ticket anywhere. But I have flown with enough people over the years, my 19 years at Southwest, almost 20. I trust those people. You just fly with some of the best pilots in the world. And
So it don't bother you.
it does not.
My buddy that flies private, he hated flying with someone else because he was used to being the captain and being in charge.
Right.
And it would drive him nuts. And boy, if he drove by there, if we walked in and the pilot was a young person, oh, he'd bitch.
No gray hair.
No, that's what he'd say. If that bitch ain't got no gray hair, I don't want to fly on this damn thing. He did not like flying. And
I
we flew,
understand
and
that.
we flew to Alaska. You know, that's a long ass flight on a commercial
Oh, yeah.
flight.
Yeah.
You know, and boy, he was more nervous than I ever would have been.
Well, the thing is, when you're the pilot, you're in control.
Mm-hmm.
It's like being in your truck and you're driving. You've got everything. And if you're the passenger and you see something, you start doing this. You kind of start
I'm not a good passenger.
tensing up. And so when you're in the back of a commercial airliner or any airplane and you're not in control, you have to have a lot of faith.
Yep. I flew one time years ago on Delta, and they had a camera on the chairs, had the movie screen.
Oh, okay. Uh-huh.
And the movie would come on, and it was of you coming into land and taking off. I loved it. It made me feel so much more safe.
I understand.
And I thought, why don't they do that more? I loved it. And have you seen the new plane? It's a design they're trying to come up with. They've got some kind of now aluminum metal or something that's on the outskirts that you can see through. Would you want to fly on a plane where you seem like it was like see-through glass?
You know what? I saw a picture of that.
Yeah.
I thought it was AI generated and fake.
No, they're working on some kind of new metal that's going to be see-through.
Really?
You know, you've got these buildings now that's got this metal that
Right.
you can. I guess it's the same technology. But they're working on something. Would you feel comfortable, Andy?
I don't know. One thing that I saw that was cool, it was a basketball court made out of glass, and so you could put whatever logo on the court you wanted, but you could also draw up X's and O's on the court. So like if you're working a new basketball play, the coach can be sitting here with a tablet and he can be like, he'll draw an X on there and he'll be like, okay, you stand there, and then arrows and shit. That was something that
It showed up on the camera. It showed up on the floor.
On the floor. So like you stand on the red X, you're gonna go into here, set up a screen, and then the coach can basically draw up plays, and the players just basically can see right where they're supposed to
I
go.
bet this is the Microsoft tablet stuff, that Surface stuff they have.
Yeah.
But as a plane, I don't know that I would like that.
I understand. I'm not sure I would like it either.
It's kind of like flying in the old bomber that was in World War II that had the glass on the bottom. See, there's the same technology, because during World War II they had the B set where they had the glass, the thick glass.
Sure.
So that's the same thing they could put on an airplane.
I guess so. I hadn't thought about it.
That's pretty neat when you watch the old YouTube video of that plane with the. I love old World War II stuff, man. It's crazy the technology we still use today from those fighters and all that stuff back in the day. Are smart enough to know that Enola Gay had to drop them bombs so high and had to bank at a certain deal.
Yes.
So that the atomic, whatever it come off that bomb, didn't knock them down too.
Yeah. A lot braver people back then.
Oh, today's men, today's kids. Could you imagine taking a bunch of kids out of high school, 18, 19, and asking them to storm the beaches of Normandy?
Oh, I couldn't.
And so it wouldn't get off the dam. They'd be too worried about dyeing their hair and doing all
and
that
I
weird
think you
shit.
were right too. Like, I think, well, I don't know. Maybe I guess it could kind of go both ways. But like teaching them to fly a plane, I'm sure there was a lot of nuances just from driving a tractor back in the planes that day. But I guess technology would kind of be the same today with like video games and shit, and learning your instrument panel and all that other stuff.
Yeah.
So maybe there would be some translation.
This has nothing to do with piloting, and I'm not a big NASCAR guy, but one of the kids that's winning in NASCAR right now had one of them damn video games at his house.
Yeah.
Where they looks like they're in a car seat doing all that shit, and he's one of the top drivers, and that's how he got his breakthrough, was being a
gamer.
A gamer.
I hadn't heard of that.
Yeah, I can't remember if it's Ricky Bell. It's one of the kids that races now, and but that's what he did. Is he was they've got a name for it, but these people are paying $10,000 for these chairs that look like a video. It's got a screen on it, and they got everything's set up just like a NASCAR car. And he won. And a lot of the pro racers also, this is their fun thing. They race against each other at home in their own deals.
Yeah.
And he was winning all the time. And somebody at Hendrick or one of them places gave him a job. And he's on this cup now.
When did technology start like really becoming more and more prevalent in airplanes?
After the Roswell crash.
Oh, maybe. Because, I mean, you think about like World War II, there probably wasn't much technology in there.
No, there's not. You know, I didn't really see it. You know, there's more technology in a lot of single-engine Cessnas flying around,
Really?
than there are in commercial jets. The biggest thing that probably has really helped is that it's called TCAS or ADSB. You may have heard it that way. TCAS means Traffic Collision Avoidance System, and you can actually see other airplanes in the sky on a radar screen.
Right.
And then it would warn you if y'all were on a collision course. It would tell you to climb, descend, turn, and that was awesome.
So avionics and electronics has been the biggest changes.
Yes.
The actual way a plane flies has not changed much.
Not at all, I don't think. I mean, I don't think there's... I'm not going to say this, but there's not too many airplanes, once you learn how to fly, that you couldn't get in and fly.
What about the P-51 was a tougher plane to fly
Absolutely.
because you had to land it because it had I forgot the
Tail
name
wheels.
of it. Tail wheels.
Tail wheels, yes.
A lot different than anything else to fly.
tail wheels are different than what we call tricycle gear.
Have you ever flown one of them?
I have.
And
Not
they
a P-51,
But
but I've flown tail wheels.
And the T-51 had the single stick, right?
Yes. And
Are those
those are
hard?
awesome.
Are they fun to fly? Or
Oh,
harder?
yeah. Those are the best.
Just jerk it around and
Yeah.
real responsive.
That's the thing, though. I don't think. I'm sure during World War II times they was pressing anybody that could fly a plane. They put them into them. They were needing pilots like crazy.
Probably, yes.
I wonder how that. I would be interested. I'm gonna have to look that up. That'd be something. Did you know? I'd like to know how these people become pilots that weren't at West Point or somewhere like that. I would like to know what the dynamics. Did they just look for smart kids or kids with balls?
I think there were some balls to it, but I think also they looked for people who were used to operating machinery.
I would love to really know that, because your grandfather was telling me his dad was in World War II, and he was an electronics armament on the bombs, and those guys had to have some kind of electrical background. There was a lot of stuff going on that too.
And I believe his uncle was a pilot.
Was
And
it?
I think so. There's so many family stories. I think my grandfather's uncle was a pilot, and my grandfather's uncle's cousin got shot down. If I've got that story right.
I'm
My
not.
grandma just died, so we got a lot of the family history that you
Right.
never hear about. So keeping some of that stuff straight in my head.
I'm not a Bush family guy. George H. or excuse me, or George W. But George H. flew a fighter in World War II, and I think he was at the Battle of Midway.
Okay.
And took off of what's the one is the Lexington's at Corpus Christi, and he took off of that. And he's a legit war hero. I mean, he fought for our country. I have to give him props for that, coming
Sure.
from the family he did. But I looked at that when we was on the Lexington, and then I flew down there one time, and we flew over it, and I thought, that's not a very big thing to be landing on.
Right. No.
I'm telling you right now, the first person that landed on an aircraft carrier had a set of balls on him for sure.
My roommate in college, who's still one of my best friends, his dad was a naval aviator. And his back was all fused together from the hard landings.
Oh,
Because that would jerk them back, wouldn't it, when they landed?
and compress.
Compress you. Yes.
on the
And it would jerk you forward, actually, when you land.
on the aircraft carriers.
Uh-huh.
That still just blows my mind that someone come up with a cable and that. And then the elevator systems on them things. And
I
stuff.
know.
It's just crazy how smart, how much shit got done. But you asked Mingo about the advancement in aircraft and stuff. I think a lot of our stuff came from Roswell or what other events it's because there's other ones too.
Sure.
Where people,
Sure.
But all of a sudden we had a big technology boom.
Yes. And we had people that could take advantage of it.
Yeah, because I think that's what Bob Lazar was saying. Is he was tasked with
Reverse engineering.
You got this. Now figure out how
Right.
we can make it go.
Right.
We lead the world in aviations, right? The United States. Is there another country out there that has better aircrafts than us for a war?
You know, No.
No,
No.
we've got that
I don't believe that at all.
right.
You know, everybody that has a great Air Force flies U.S. airplanes, I think.
Right.
I just read today that the Canadian deal with all these tariffs and shit, and the people in Canada were bitching, and someone said we ought to just cancel our order. They just ordered a bunch of F-35. Lockheed Martin
F-35s.
makes the F-35.
Yes.
And someone said, I think you already prepaid most of it, so it'd be kind of stupid. You've been sending guys to train down there for 2 years to learn how to fly. And said, if the United States backs out of NATO and you have a problem with the United States, they have it in those contracts. They can pull all them planes from you. You can't use them. So you have
Usually, too, they don't give them the same avionics packages,
what they said.
targeting packages that we have.
and we can completely do something. We don't have to be there to completely disarm them.
No.
So I guess it's some kind of Firefox proof deal. If someone stole a plane and tried to fly it to China to reverse engineer it,
Sure.
they could shut her down anytime.
Absolutely. Yes.
That's crazy. Have you got to fly in any of the new fighters?
No. The only thing I ever flew that was fast and like a fighter was the T-38 that we pulled up a while ago. I never flew fighters for the Air Force. gosh, I guess I've never been in one at all.
I had a chance a couple of years ago to go ride along in one, and I no
Oh,
bullshit.
I
I'd
would
throw
have
up
done
all
it
over the place.
Oh, I'd have done it in a heartbeat.
No,
That would have been so much fun.
no, they don't have enough bags of that for me shitting and puking all over that plane. I'd ruined it.
So
Yeah.
is that another thing? As you get more time in the air, the motion sickness, does that kind of go away for somebody, or is it just like, hey, you got motion sickness, you got it forever?
No, we actually had people that would get motion sickness, especially in the heat.
Yeah.
Flying out of Del Rio, and we were teaching students when they first got up there. You'd have 10% of them that would throw up a time or two. Mm-hmm. We always told them, take your mask off if you're going to throw up, because you're wearing an oxygen mask, right?
Yeah.
And maybe 3 of them out of a summer wouldn't, and it goes whack,
I
all
throw
over.
up too.
And you're sitting over there having to fly the airplane going, dude.
Oh, if someone throws up, I'm throwing up with them. It's a party then.
My son, we got a company that sponsors a podcast, and they had a little plane that they flew out here, and they flew it out here to hunt with us. And they were like, the pilot was like, I'll take your family up. It'd be fun. They can see the town. They can see their house from above. Well, my son has my wife's motion sickness gene.
Right.
And the air is not a great air conditioner in there.
No.
So it was hot
Right.
and got a little bit motion sickness. Well, it's got the microphone that comes up here. He didn't clear it enough and just all over the edge of the microphone. I think he missed most of the bag. I think I've still got a picture of him.
Poor kid, he was miserable.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, the worst thing you can do if you have motion sickness is try to look through a camera or take pictures, or because you're not paying your surroundings. It's look around you. But if you start focusing on something and then start moving, it'll tear you up.
We had Randy Sharp was our UPS guy here forever, and he was coming down here one time, and I hunted a bunch of guys from Carswell Air Force Base.
Okay.
Guy calls me up one morning, and he's like, "Hey, Jeff," his name. I knew who he was, and I was like, "Yeah." He goes, "We're gonna be out there Thursday." He goes, "What's your GPS coordinates?" I'm like, I ain't got a damn clue. I said, "You've been here before." That's what I'm thinking. I'm thinking, "Hey, you've been here 1,000 times. You don't have your GPS coordinates?" He says, "No, let me call 911 and see if they can tell me who it is." Call sheriff's office. I thought they'll let me know. He calls me back 5 minutes. He says, "Okay, I got him now. Don't worry about it." It's okay. Didn't think nothing of it.
Sure.
Well, that day about 1 o'clock, I hear, boy, there was 4. Would they be F-18s probably?
They could be.
Or F-22s or something? I mean, it was whatever they had cutting edge probably about. This would have been 2000 and probably 12, 13.
2012.
Whatever they
And
were.
where was the location?
Carswell Air Force Base in Fort Worth.
Probably
Because they trained some fighter.
F-35s.
Okay, that's what it was then. Okay.
Yeah.
So anyways, buzzed by here, and he made 2 or 3 laps by here, I mean low. And he come down this driveway, and he was just barely above the mesquite trees. I mean, and turned sideways and waved at me and shit. Well, I thought, well, I guess that's a guy. I knew what he did. I said, that's the guys from deal. Well, the next day they come in. I think, what did he tell me how long it took him to get here from Fort Worth? Like 15 minutes or 11 minutes. I mean, wasn't no time at all. And he goes, "What time's dinner tonight?" At 6 o'clock. So we got a surprise for you at 6 o'clock. At 6 o'clock, about 5 of them started using this on a bombing raid, and they were buzzing this thing. Shoo, shoo, shoo. But anyways, back to UPS guy. He was driving down the road minding his own business, and that sucker come buzzing by behind him. And shoo.
Oh, it'll rock your world.
Yeah, I scared the shit out of it.
Of course it did.
But that night they buzzed this thing. Boy, my neighbors had horses. They called bitching and griping and stuff.
Yeah.
But I told Michelle, we went outside and they were blacked out and they'd hit their afterburners, like come up here and hit them afterburners and go up in there. I told her, I said, could you imagine being some bitch standing out in the damn desert somewhere and having these some bitches buzzing? You'd scare the shit out of you.
Yeah.
These are crazy.
This was my kid getting off. I found the pictures. That was him getting
boy.
off of that plane.
Oh, Reese boy.
Poor guy.
And it hits you so fast. And like,
It does.
And like that, like I said, and my wife was on the plane, and because they only had room for 3. So they only had room for 3, I think.
Y'all 3 went, didn't y'all?
No, I stayed on the ground so that my 2 boys and her could fly. And
Jameson wasn't even there then, was he?
yeah.
Okay.
I think I've got a picture of him. But she was just like, it was just he just got sick, and then he got kind of hot, and then it was hot, and
Oh, and once it starts, it's gonna happen.
yeah.
We had the. I probably shouldn't say their name. They're a real famous hotel family. We'll just go from there.
Okay.
And they hunt with me, and they've got a cousin, Paris. It's pretty famous. Mm-hmm. They landed their King Air right out here on the road on 2279.
Yeah.
And they did it a couple of times. They would land their plane right here.
Uh-huh.
We'd block the road off on both ends.
Uh-huh.
They'd taxi, park their plane right here, hunt for 2 or 3 days. We'd block the road, and they'd take off right off that. They'd use this as their runway.
Yeah.
But their pilot was an ex-Alaskan bush pilot.
Yeah.
Sucker had some balls on him, too.
I'm sure.
This is just a single prop plane, right?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay.
That's
So,
a
yeah.
Beaver, isn't it?
And that's a tail dragger as well.
Yep.
Yeah. Yeah, that's what they were in. Whenever he
Is that a is that a
Barf.
Beaver? Is that what it's
No,
called?
that's not a Beaver. I don't think so. That looks like a Cessna 180 to me.
I got to fly. What
Or
is
170.
What is the Beaver? Is it a de Havilland Beaver? or
Yes,
something?
that's correct.
I've got to fly a couple of times in one of those.
Yeah.
They say those are amazing planes.
They are. Yes. Really. Y'all used in Alaska a lot with floats on them.
Yep. Mm-hmm. That's the most unnatural thing I've landed on is landing on water.
Yes.
The first time we did it, we took off from outside of Fairbanks on the river, and they dropped us off in the middle of nowhere. And he buzzes around a couple of times. He goes, see if you see anything in there I need to know about. What are you talking about? He goes, you see any trees or anything sticking out of the water? No. And that's what before he landed, he wanted to make sure there wasn't nothing in the water.
and it was up to you to find it.
Well, I was looking, he was on one side, I was looking on the other.
4 eyes are better than
That's
two.
right. He goes, he says, if you see something, let me know. I was like, what am I looking for? I was looking for a bear or moose. I was like, I'm a damn bear jumping out here at us. He's like, see thing floating in the water, let me know. I said, no.
But you said the single engine planes are what scare you the most
No,
as
they
far
don't-
as something
they don't-
failing.
Well,
You ain't gonna, if they fail, you're
Because you just
screwed.
got one engine,
well, no. I mean, really, it's not. You just become a glider.
right? Find a big wheat
I
field.
mean, you don't. The engine quits. You don't go.
right.
You
got enough momentum to.
you glide.
Well,
I mean,
a big plane like a 737, would it glide if engines went out?
Yes.
It would?
Oh yeah.
Boy, I hope I'm never in that situation.
Both of them go out.
Shit, boy. Oof,
The
could you
odds
imagine?
of that are very, very low.
Very.
Right, but they could glide if they had to. The problem would be where you'd land that son of a bitch other than a highway.
That would be the problem. A little airplane, you can land almost anywhere. I've done it twice. Once at night,
What happened?
I landed.
I mean, but your engine
Did
cranked
your engine
out?
go out?
Yes. I had bought the airplane 3 days prior, and it was a little after midnight, and I'm just over the Texas border from Shreveport, by a little town called Carthage.
I know where it's at. There ain't many places to land there either. It's trees.
And it's night. And I can't see, and my engine quits.
Oh dear.
And I mean, it didn't just quit, it stopped. Usually, if an engine, like you run out of gas or something like that, what happens is the propeller will still turn. No, this engine went clink,
Oh.
locked up on me. And I was like, well, there's the Carthage airport. I could see it, but I knew I couldn't make it. And I saw an 18-wheeler. You know how they all get lit up, the trailer and everything? I could see him, and I just turned for him. Put the landing gear down, went right over the back of the trailer, landed on the highway.
Lucky there wasn't another
Didn't
car
panic
coming.
at all, did you?
I'm sorry?
You didn't even panic, did you?
I didn't panic. You can't panic. If you panic, it's not going to work.
I can tell you a panic story. One of my farmers in Oklahoma. Do you remember who I'm talking about? Matt was going to. He bought an airplane. He was getting his license, and it was the last time he was going to fly with the instructor at night. And he was going to do a night landing. The next day, or like an hour or two later, I think he was even going to fly himself. Got up, and the engine locked up. He'd bought it. He'd already bought the plane, and the instructor was let me take over. And they landed it at nighttime, and I think they landed on a little road somewhere or something. But he never ever went back to school again. That was it. He said, if I'd have been by myself, he said, I'd have died.
Yeah.
He goes,
Well-
and he was going to fly by himself, and that guy took it. It was the last time, and just the engine went down. He said, that would have been it for me.
Yeah. I kind of had those feelings, and this was kind of what went through my head that night. I was 25 years old, 26, something like that. And as I'm making the turn and I see the 18-wheeler, I was like, well, there's a road there. If he's there, there's something there.
Not
But
trees.
then, are there highline wires? Is there a bridge?
Yeah.
Is there this? But I said, it doesn't matter. This is my only choice.
Yep.
So quit worrying about that. And, I got down there, and luckily it didn't happen.
What did the guy say to you when he come up the truck? Because I'm assuming
Well,
he
the
stopped.
truck, no, I don't even know if he saw me.
Never even knew.
He was going this way, and
Okay.
I came over the back of him. I don't know if he ever knew I was there.
Would the car come up with anything?
A car come up. It was a preacher, and I'm like, well, there was a sign. Okay, but anyway, he called the highway patrol, and the highway patrol came out, called the sheriff's office. They called the airport manager at Carthage, and he brought a tow bar and a van out. And then the FAA called me, Federal Aviation Administration, and wanted to know what happened. And I said, I don't know. The engine quit. It stopped. And he goes, did you hit anything? I said, nope. He goes, is any flight controls damaged? I said, no. Everything's in great shape except the motor.
Yeah.
And he confirmed that with the highway patrolman, and they let us take the airplane, and we got a police escort down the highway and pulled it to the airport.
What had happened?
The engine, it destroyed itself.
I'll be damned. And that's what was the other time you crash landed?
I didn't crash.
He just landed.
I just landed.
Just landed. Unexpectedly.
I kind of hate to put this one out there, but I will, because it was my fault. It was probably too much ego and not enough smarts that day. But I got too close to a thunderstorm right outside of Brenham, Texas.
Yeah.
I had just dropped my kids off there. That's where they lived with their mom. And I was headed back to Dallas. And I tried to go around a thunderstorm, and I got caught sort of in it. Not like I was barreling up the clouds or anything. But it got real turbulent. And I was not in control of the airplane. Wasn't there. Mm-hmm. The thunderstorm had control of the airplane, not me. It's really not the thunderstorm. It's the inflow of the air into the thunderstorm.
Right.
Sucked you right into it.
Yeah. And when it was done and I got back control of the airplane, which I don't know how long it was, I thought I was dead. I mean, seriously, I thought this is it. I pushed the power up, and I was pretty close to the ground. I would say 700 feet, something like that. And I pushed the power up, and the engine wasn't running.
Uh-oh.
And I was like, well, that ain't good. I don't even have time to figure. I've got to find a place to land right now. And I saw a field, and I just landed in the field. And it was actually a pasture, but it was pretty rough, but got it down, got safe, stopped, kind of cleaned up my britches a little bit. And I was trying to figure out what was going on. Well, I had my headset, that's a $1,000 headset that I was using in there. And I kept provisions for those kind of situations in case I have to walk out. I didn't see anybody. I didn't see any houses. I didn't see a highway. So I'm out in the middle of somebody's pasture, right? Okay. And I reached in to unplug my headset, and where it was plugged in was right next to my fuel selector. Well, my fuel selector had been knocked out of position.
Oh.
And I went, oh, don't tell me. Don't you dare tell me. So I went and put it back in, started up the airplane, started up just like that.
That was it.
You fly it out?
And I turned it back off, and I went and did a walk around to make sure that I didn't have any damage on my landing gear, anything. I mean, I didn't crash. I rolled, but it was real rough. And I just wanted to make sure there wasn't any damage. So, yeah, I started it up, and I flew back. I
You
flew it
imagine
out
being
of
that
there.
neighbor just landed over there, now he's taking off. He's probably he's flying drugs in.
Yeah, something. But anyway, that happened. And you know what? I got back to the airport that I was based at near Dallas, and I had my mechanic go through the airplane. I wanted a full inspection in case something, was hurt. And it was like a week later, I sold it. And I haven't been back in a single engine airplane since.
Have you seen the guys that fly? Because I just storm chase a lot. There's a guy in Oklahoma that's got a helicopter, and he flies right around. It's one of the KOCO, I think, is it where Damon Lane's at. They fly right next to them thunderstorms and helicopters all the time.
Yeah, I wouldn't do
I
that.
thought, my God, that's some ball, and they get some good video. They get some amazing video. But wow, it's
Is that the most dangerous weather to fly in, thunderstorms?
It depends on what you're doing, and I mean thunderstorms. You know, my dad used to ask me. He was a farmer. He wasn't a pilot. He was going, "What are you doing when you see a thunderstorm?" I said, "Well, you go around it."
Right.
You know, I mean, you've got weather radar, but you also have your eyeballs. As long as you're not in the clouds, you go around it.
But what about like taking off and landing and stuff like that? Some of the stuff that you just can't avoid, like you just got to land. You got to deal with the weather.
If you're in a thunderstorm, you're not going to take off or land there.
They'll deviate you,
or you deviate yourself.
Yeah.
They'll close the airfield
and just let it blow by.
Yeah, wait, or send you somewhere else. Like, I was flying out of Love Field in Dallas, and if you had a thunderstorm over the field, it depends on your fuel now. Well, I just go to Oklahoma City. It's 20 minutes away.
Oh, right.
That way I don't have to wait. I can get on the ground, I can put gas back in, and then maybe by that time. Now, it's an inconvenience to passengers,
Right.
of course. Nobody wants to do it, but you don't want to fly through a thunderstorm either.
Right.
I got stuck in Tulsa a couple of years ago, going into, I think it was going into DFW though. It might have been Love Field. I can't remember one of them. But anyways, we got stuck in Tulsa. 14 planes they had to refuel before they could refuel us.
Yeah.
It took forever.
That's because everybody tries
Has
to
to do
get
the same thing.
Everybody has to go the same places.
Yep.
Yeah.
But what about like snowstorms and everything? That's not necessarily too big.
It's
too big
really
of a deal.
not. I mean, visibility becomes an issue with fog, that kind of stuff. But
You're relying on your instruments then, though, aren't you?
you are. We actually used a HUD, which is a heads-up division. It's a piece of glass that comes down, and you could get 50 feet above the ground before you saw the runway. If you didn't see it at 50 feet, you had to go.
So you're telling me when we landed, because the other day we landed in,
Took off in fog.
where were we at?
We were in Abilene. We were going to Dallas.
No, and you couldn't see nothing.
Yeah.
And we took off.
Yeah.
But they don't do it off of instruments. They have an actual deal they look through.
Well, it depends on the airline and what
was
they
American.
buy. Yeah, and I'm not familiar with their policies, but yeah, they could have been reading instruments. Sure.
But Southwest y'all didn't do that.
Well, you kind of cross flow. We had a HUD, so it's different. But a HUD has all your instruments on it, so you're looking at them in one place. It's like a holographic image.
Okay.
And it's of the run. If it's of the runway,
It's heading, airspeed, all kinds of stuff in there.
right?
But you can land in fog with zero visibility, can't you?
No, you have to see the run. Well, at our airline,
50 feet.
you had to have the runway in sight by 50 feet above the ground.
What happens if you get somewhere near low in fuel and it don't? Because it has to happen.
Well, then you just have to do what you have
Can
to
you
do.
can you land through instruments though, or is it tough?
Yeah, you can do it. Sure. You
Can you
do
push
it.
the button automatic? Let him do it.
Some airplanes have auto land where the pilot doesn't even touch anything.
Do you like flying those, or do you like being in
never
control?
have been in one.
So you've always landed it manually.
At the airline I flew for, everything was manual takeoff and landing. We didn't have auto.
I would want someone to do it, not rely on a computer to have a glitch in it. So I would prefer that. But I've landed somewhere not recently too in a big fog storm, and I thought I didn't think nothing of it because I figured it's all instruments, so it didn't matter.
Sure.
So even on a soupy instrument day, they want some vision or they won't land.
Correct.
Okay, I didn't know that. Mm-hmm. But landed on snow's no big deal.
No,
is it?
It's not.
Ice is a problem probably because you can slide.
Well, yes, you
But
can.
that weight of the plane is so heavy it goes right through the ice anyways, don't it usually?
It sometimes it can, sometimes it can't. What we have what you call an RCR, runway condition reading, and they actually take pickups and they'll go out there, or a car, and they'll go out there and see how slick it is, and then you have a braking action of good, poor, fair, and you enter that into a computer. And you enter the weight of the airplane and the winds and the weather, the temperature, and it all goes into a computer. And then it tells you how long it's going to take you to stop. Okay. And based on all those mathematical equations. And then you look at how long the runway is. It's going to take you 6,000 feet to stop. And they add a buffer in there. It's not like actual. They add a little bit of buffer.
Yeah.
You know. And then you look at your runway and you go, well, I got 10,000 feet. Okay, let's go. Here we go.
What do you have for a big plane like a passenger plane? How long does the airplane strip be to take off?
I'm trying to remember what our minimum was. I think it was 5,000 feet or so, something like that. But it doesn't take you near that much. The point is about the length of the runway is, and just my opinion, the takeoff is the most dangerous part.
Yes, I've heard that.
Of a flight.
You're very vulnerable.
You're very vulnerable. And there's a point, which we call V1, which is a go, no-go speed. If you accelerate to that point and an engine quits, you keep going because you're not going to be able to stop on the remaining runway.
Right.
If it happens before that specific speed, you stop.
Right.
Because you're going to be able to stop on the remaining runway. And so that's how you, and it depends on winds, temperature, pressure, altitude, weight of aircraft, all that kind of stuff. So that's, once again, putting a computer before we take off, and we know what that V1 speed is. It's usually around 110 miles an hour. So if something happens before 110, we'll just call it 110 miles an hour, you stop. If it happens after 110 miles an hour, you go.
Mm-hmm.
How fast do you have to get take off? 180?
Oh, no. I mean, the airplane will fly a lot slower than that, but usually a takeoff is 130. Yeah.
Our friend that's a pilot, that's what he was talking about, like that initial kind of liftoff where a lot of birds like to hang out.
Oh, yeah.
Is always kind of the worst. Like, you just got to get through that.
You do.
He had a bird strike in their private jet, and he said, I told the co-pilot, you tell them we're coming right back. He said, let me have the controls. And they landed okay, but it was
I didn't bring my phone in today, Jeff, but I could show you one that scared me to death.
You had a bird strike?
Oh, my gosh. And it was bad because I was going 200. I was doing 250 knots, which is approximately 270 miles an hour. I'm approximating.
Yeah.
It's at night.
Oof.
I'm at 4,000 feet going into Chicago Midway, and it sounded like a bomb went off. And I mean, my whole windshield was covered in gut. It was a goose, an owl, something, whatever flies at night.
Could have been either one.
Something big.
Something big. And I've got pictures of it on my phone. And I just finally, after I settled down, of course, I had the autopilot on, so I wasn't like, everything was fine. It didn't hurt.
You were 4,000 feet?
Yes.
So I'm assuming you're over Chicago at this time.
We're on the south side of Chicago. Yes. Southwest side of Chicago. So, anyway, my whole windshield is covered. I can't see out of it. Well, I got to see the land.
Yeah, right.
And it was my turn to land, and I looked over at my first officer, and I said, well, you got the airplane. It's going to be your landing because I can't see. And I have pictures of that.
But didn't break nothing?
No, it doesn't break. We heat the windshields in jets. They're heated, so they're more flexible.
Oh, right.
You don't want them up there at minus 40 degrees Celsius. Brittle.
Right.
So we have windshield heat.
Midway, what I've noticed about it, that is the backyard swimming pool capital of America. When you come into that place, every yard's got a pool in it for the last 2 miles going into that place.
Yes.
That's so you heat the windows. That's crazy. I did not know that.
Yes, they're heated.
What's your least favorite airport to take off and land in? The one where you're just always like, dude, I don't like this.
It was usually Reagan.
Reagan?
Yes.
You don't like Reagan?
No.
I've never been there. I've heard San Diego's a pain in the butt because of a parking lot or something.
Yeah, but that's fun.
I mean, what are you close to it or something?
Well, so the San Diego airport sits right on the water. Mm-hmm. Okay. So it's basically sea level. Well, right outside of it is a big old, I'll call it a hill. Mm-hmm. And then the downtown San Diego. And yes, there's a parking lot there. And so you're coming down because you got to get down here So you're seriously, what you're doing is you're just following the ground track, and you fly right over that parking lot, and then you have to land.
How high above the parking lot are you?
Oh, I don't remember, 200 feet maybe.
Because I landed there and I was looking for this part. Because everybody's always told me that. I've heard that. And is it St. Thomas or something where you land right on the water, or one of them places there?
It is, but I've never flown into there.
And they land right on the water.
Yes.
And I've always heard it was
Thomas, or is it
Martinique or one of them.
one of those.
Yeah,
yes.
it's St. Martin. Here it is.
Yeah, St. Martin.
Just right over.
Yep.
That doesn't look very high. I'm sure it's higher than it actually looks, but
Oh, that's 50 feet.
and then that's not very high.
You could take a rock and hit the planes. I mean, it's
Oh,
close
yeah.
enough there.
Yeah.
But that's just right on the beach.
What's really stupid is those people get on the beach and then they hit that jet. They hit them jets and it blows them.
Right.
It killed a lady a couple years ago.
I remember that. Yes.
Really?
Yeah.
How'd it kill her? Just knocked
Blew
her
her
over?
in.
Blew her off. It blew her into the concrete.
Yeah.
Oh.
Look it up. You can do it. People do it all the time. I don't know what people get their rocks off on some weird things. Getting blown in jet wash to me does not sound like fun.
What was the one crash we were talking about with ski? It was a downburst.
That was the Delta crash in Dallas in 1986 or something in August in that thunderstorm.
That was
or
wind
July.
Yes.
Wind shear.
Wind shear.
And you used to be able to see that old Harvey's Hotel was across the way, and the big oil tank was right there, and there was a big dent where it hit it with its wing.
Was that on takeoff or landing?
They were landing.
Landing.
But
And
it landed on the north side of the airport coming in. Like instead of going by Embassy Suites, you go back towards Irving.
and that's
right
just
there.
an act of God, right?
It is, but you know that they changed a lot of stuff with weather radar after that happened. And now we have predictive wind shear built into our radar, where it actually looks at your radar looks at wind speeds and where they're moving. And if a wind shear is basically, you got a headwind and all of a sudden you got a tailwind. Mm-hmm. And you'll see it from a thunderstorm where you see the rain coming down in the shaft.
Right.
Okay. Well, as soon as you come across that part of it, the wind changes on you very quickly. And so you got to watch that. But now our radars in commercial airplanes tell you.
Right. So you know what to do. And what do you do if you, get caught?
You go around.
Hit the gas.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. You go around. You get out of there.
As fast so hit the gas and get out.
Yes.
And come again.
Come again.
Did you see where there's a video going right now, and it might be TikTok or one of those. The Spirit airline guy is trying to take off. They tell him to hold because there's it's Trump's plane is there. It says Trump on it. And he says, well, we got a executive or a VIP or something. You need to back off. He's like, we ain't got time. We're going to be late. We got to go. And he takes off anyways. The boy, I bet his ass got in trouble when he did.
That wasn't very smart.
No.
So
better be guy that's fixing to retire because that probably was his last time to get a fly.
What is Trump's plane?
It's a Boeing 757.
Money.
You're talking about his personal
Yes,
plane.
yes, the personal jet.
That one that says Trump
Yeah,
on it.
yeah, yeah.
Yes.
$150 million probably.
At least.
Yeah.
Really?
Well, that's what do you call it? Fuck around money or
Walk around money. He's got that walk around money.
he got all that. No, fuck you money is what it's called.
Yeah, that's
Of
what
course. That's a tax deduction.
Oh, of course. Yeah. He's going all over the place.
Sure.
I heard that it was almost as nice as Air Force One.
They said it's not as nice
Not as nice?
because they're building a new Air Force One because he didn't, and he never. Well, he's
No,
going to
that's
get.
what I'm saying. His
Yes.
plane was nicer than Air
Yes.
Force One.
Well, his digs are nicer than the. I went in the White House a couple years ago.
Oh, really?
Let me tell you something. We need to do some updating. That Queen Victoria bullshit we got in there. I wouldn't sit my fat ass in them chairs. I'd afraid I'd break them.
Yeah.
I was the gaudiness of it. Really, is what it was. To be in that in his home or something is an amazing thing. It's a hell of an honor to get to go in there.
Oh, sure.
But we could do a lot better job of decorating. I'd rather gone in the old Yellowstone Lodge than to be in the White House and actual in the inside of it. But just it's not big as you'd think it would be.
Right. I got you.
And they say the kitchen area is real small. I don't know how they do. They're remodeling
It was
and doing a
built
bunch
in
of
the
this stuff.
1800s. So, like,
Yes.
what are you expecting?
Well, I know, but you just think all the state dinners and stuff they have there, that it
Well,
would be a lot nicer digs than it
And
is.
I just think about Melania being there. I think she'd be like, oh, we're going to change this.
It's not all.
She's classy.
They're putting a swimming pool in now,
Okay.
but Barron's soccer cage was outside. He would go out there and play soccer every day.
Yeah.
You just walk right through a walkway and it's right there. I mean, it was a neat deal. It's a cool place to get to go inside of. Mm-hmm. And there's not a lot of people in the United States have got to go inside of it.
Nope.
But it was not what I was. It is what I was expecting, but it really wasn't what I was expecting. I thought it would be a little more, probably like going in. I bet if I went in Buckingham Palace, I'd probably feel the same way.
Yeah, probably so. I understand. I understand what you mean.
That's not my kind of place, but it was really it's an interesting place.
Right.
Did you get into the commercial side of things after 9/11?
Yes, I was at Del Rio Laughlin Air Force Base when 9/11 happened, and then
Did y'all fly after that?
Not for a few days because we were a training mission. We were not a support mission of doing anything. So we were training. So they shut us down. I don't remember 5 days or something. Well, as soon as they let the air carrier start flying again, we got to fly again. So
I read a story not long ago, and there was people coming back from, I want to say England or somewhere. A couple of planes landed in some island that they put them on, like in St. John's, New Brunswick or something. It had an airstrip there, and that's where they told them to land it, and they had to land it.
On 9/11?
Yes. A little town, a little island that had a large runway that had maybe 200 or 300 people live in it, had 700 or 800 guests for 3 or 4 or 5 days that they had to try to feed and everything. They didn't have no room for nothing. It's really interesting. You can look it up somewhere. I can't remember where it was. There's a little island somewhere there.
Huh.
Maybe the Faroe Islands, where they at?
Yeah. I've heard that would be what, Southeast Atlantic?
Somewhere. But they had no choice. They put them down. They landed everybody, wouldn't let nobody come in the United States. That's where they landed, and they had to stay for, would you say, 5 days? However long the airlines.
I think it was 5 days, if I remember correctly. I think everything was shut down for 5 days. Well, anything not militarily required.
Yep. Right. And then they hauled all the cars from the airports.
Yes.
So like if you were at DFW on a trip somewhere and your car was in a parking lot, they cleared every car out of there and just put them in fields.
They worried about bombs?
Yep. Can you imagine trying to find your car? Your clicker button. Poor somebody didn't have a clicker is in big trouble because everybody uses their clicker in a parking lot now to find your car.
Absolutely.
I don't think they'll ever hit us that way again.
Ooh.
I hope you're right.
I do too, but I wouldn't say that.
You don't think so? I think that there's just too much.
They wake up.
I think there's too much. I don't think we'll never get hit again, but I don't think it'll be that way.
They wake up every day trying to find a way to kill us.
I'm not disagreeing with that, but I just don't know how you're going to get some of the stuff through.
Oh, I don't. There's a lot of different ways they could do it with airplanes. I mean, if they really wanted to do some things, there's a lot easier ways to cause mass casualties in our country with an airplane than to try to go through an airport with a deal. You can they got money, buy them a $50 million jet and fill it up with stuff and fly into a stadium somewhere. I mean, they're evil people.
No, I just mean like hijacking a plane.
I don't think hijacking plane days.
Plan, the plan that we saw on 9/11, I don't think that's going to be how it's going to happen.
Right.
Again, I don't doubt that they're scheming of another way.
But you have to remember, before 9/11, there were hijackings.
Sure.
When we grew up in the 70s, it was all the time. Cuba.
But it was, take me here.
Right.
Yep.
And pilots were taught to just do it.
Mm-hmm.
You know.
We'll fly them to Cuba and let them go there, and then they'll arrest them and kill them there anyways.
Right. You know, whatever. But we're just going to let them do it. We're not going to fly it into a building. 9/11 changed all of that when they actually took over and used it as a weapon.
But as kids in the 70s and 80s, planes getting hijacked was very normal.
Yes.
Libyan Air. I mean, there was all kinds of stuff. With the Greek guy that got shot and they threw him out of the plane, or the Jewish guy. Mm-hmm. The Muslims killed the Jewish guy, him, his wife, and family. They were in Greece or somewhere, I think. But it was that was not something that was a D.B. Cooper. They're never going to figure out whatever happened on that deal.
Right. He died.
Well, I'm sure he's dead now.
I don't think he survived.
I don't know. Nobody knows. Nobody's ever going to find out.
I don't think he made it.
Well, there's a lot of people that think that, but a lot of people think he survived and lived.
I think it was like rainy that day, and he landed.
He jumped out of an airplane.
Jumped out in the Pacific Northwest, right?
Yeah, somewhere around Mount Hood, and
I don't think he made it.
12 or 15,000 feet.
I don't think he made it.
I don't see how you'd survive that.
I don't either. No matter how.
I don't know. Navy SEALs can do a lot of shit, so who knows?
Well, that's true.
But a guy that's not trained to do that stuff,
right?
Yes, I agree with you on that. I mean, I don't know, but
I don't know.
That stuff happened. I don't think anybody's going to hijack a plane now.
You know, in hindsight being what it is with 9/11, like you always think like, well, if I was in that situation, I'd have fought back. But like they told the people, like we got some demands. Once we get these met, we're going to land the plane. Everybody's going to be safe.
Exactly.
So, you know,
Yeah.
Now we know what it is. And it's easy to be like, oh, well, I would have done this or John Rambo'd him or whatever. But they were just like, hey, we're taking over the plane. We got some demands and we're going to land it. And that'll be that. But nobody saw what happening.
Right.
Well, I hope we never go through that again. But in 1983, they put car bombs in the bottom of the World Trade Center. And then in 2001, they finished it off. So they're going to find them. What scares me if we ever have another incident is one of these days, one of them's going to get on one of these dirty bombs.
Yes. Agreed.
But, you know, them terrorists have a ton of money. And we're probably funding it.
Well, I was going to say, I'm not so sure we're not funding a lot of it.
And so that USAID is writing billions of dollars of money everywhere. They could do a lot of stuff. I mean, hell, we were spending $40 million a week to the Taliban until 4 weeks ago. That's a lot of freaking money to be going away, cash money. So
I just saw where they're going to make them go through with the USAID.
No, they only have to go through the Supreme Court rule today.
$1.8 billion.
Everything that has been spoken for and the job had been required to get that money, they're going to have to pay them. They're going to have to go back and prove everything else that should be paid and why it should be paid. They just said, the government said, if someone done a service, regardless if we overpaid for it or not, that was the deal we made. We have to pay for it. Now, they also told Biden that he couldn't do student loans, and he still did some student loan forgiveness. Right. So who knows how much of it's going to go through or not.
Right. We're in interesting times.
Oh, my gosh. Yeah, historically, this is outside of the independence. Mm-hmm. I can't think of another. In the Civil War, we're in the third round of that right now. I mean, basically, of what's.
I totally agree with you.
And then when you saw last night how divided we are, you know, a little kid with cancer comes up, a black kid.
Right.
You know, Black Lives Matter to all them people on the left that were the congressmen that were all black last night. They couldn't even stand up for that young man. I can't understand that much hatred.
I can't either. I don't get that.
And then the police officer's widow is up there. And then the little girl who was murdered. Mm-hmm.
Jocelyn.
Yeah, and they named the wildlife refuge after last night. And all that other stuff that's going on. And I'm forgetting somebody else that they had up last night. And those people don't even stand up and clap. I cannot stand Obama or Biden. And Biden, poor Biden, he was never in charge anyway.
No, he wasn't.
He was a puppet. Now they're coming out with it all.
Right.
And for them to sit and not clap, if Obama walked in the door right now, I don't like the guy, I don't respect him. I would say, hello, Mr. President, and I would shake his hand just out of respect.
Sure.
I don't understand that.
I don't either. I don't get it.
He was needling them, though. Will you give him that? Like,
well, hell yeah, I would be too. It's a piss poor dog that don't wag his own tail.
But I'm just saying.
You mean like when he said, I bet you didn't see this coming, did you?
No, he said something the other night, and it was right before the Texas guy got kicked out, and you could tell Trump was looking for a reaction. I'm not taking up for them. They should have stood for the boy and the widows and the moms. That's just human decency. They should have stood up. But Trump was doing a pretty good job of.
Of course he was. He won the election.
Guess who's up here, bitch?
And he should.
He should, yeah.
And everything everything that's going on in our country are things he ran on. There's nothing that he's done that surprises anybody. He told us.
Oh yeah.
He told us he was going to do tariffs. He told me that. He said we're going to close that fucking border. 8,000 people last month come across. 200,000 the month before. Yeah, it's a big fucking change.
Yes.
Everything he said he's done, and I respect him for it. And if Canada's going to put 25% tariffs on us, we're going to put 25% tariffs on them.
Yeah. Well, you know, and to your point about him, you know, jabbing them a little bit or needling them, or whatever you want to call it, kind of egging them on in a way. You know, just think about running around our little communities around here, and somebody tries to kill you twice.
Oh yeah, yeah.
I guarantee you.
Yeah, you're going to hear about it.
You're going to hear some things.
Oh yeah, there's no doubt about it, and the stuff they've said about him.
Yes.
But we have never had a time where I put this on Facebook earlier today. If you go back to when Bill Clinton and George H. Bush ran for president, first of all, if H. Ross Perot doesn't run, George H. gets his second term probably. Mm-hmm. H. Ross cost that. It don't matter. That's here or there. And Bill Clinton was not a bad president. He was lucky. He had the internet was invented when he was there, and it really propped him up better. And Newt Gingrich was a really good speaker, and they got a lot of stuff done. But we weren't that far apart. We had some social issues, but the Republican and Democratic Party were not much different. We were all Americans.
Right. Correct.
Obama came in And you saw last night Obama's Democratic Party, because that was them in full force last night.
Yes.
That's who it is. That's not John F. Kennedy's.
No.
And that was your grandparents and my grandparents. They were John F. Kennedy Democrats. They were not much different than the Republicans. The Democrats now are so far left on this stuff. This transgender hill.
Oh my gosh.
And I don't understand that. And that's they're willing to die on this hill. But them women wore pink. All we heard all the time was war on women all summer long before the election. Oh, Trump's got a war on women. He's got more women in his cabinet than any cabinet ever before. They wore pink to stand up for women last night, the same day they voted against men playing women's sports. I mean, fucking tone deaf.
Yeah. Yeah.
Completely.
Oh.
And I don't get it. I don't understand. There's something in me. I would never go try to play a girl's sport.
No.
A real man's not going to.
No.
It ain't gonna happen.
You know?
And then the story about where it was volleyball, right, last night, where she got the ball spiked so hard into her head that she, concussions and everything else.
Traumatic brain damage.
Yeah, traumatic brain injury from a volleyball game. And then I've seen like basketball games where you got a dude out there with girls and he's just ragdolling them.
Last night in
jump ball.
Last night in Maine, a boy plays center on a girls basketball team.
I saw that.
Knocked 3 girls out of the game. They couldn't even finish the game that their team didn't play. Knocked them out of the game, 3 of them. And is it Susan Collins, right? Is the Republican senator from Maine?
Yes.
She don't have a problem with that, I guess. I just don't get it.
I don't either.
I
don't understand it.
But he's got them in a position where they can't agree with anything that he says. And that's something that he's done pretty masterfully, if you ask me, because they can't agree with anything that he says. So they've got to go so far to the other side to prove that, by God, he's just wrong.
Oh, he plays the game.
So they have to. If he comes out and says we don't need boys and women's sports, they got to go the complete opposite way, and he just keeps pushing them further and further to the left. And the American public came out and voted in November.
Yes,
and they're just going to continue to be tone deaf, and they're just going to continue to lose elections.
I agree.
Because, like he said last night, I could find the most incredible cure, and I would never get a clap from this side of the aisle.
Correct.
One lady that was from New York clapped for the little boy that had cancer.
Yeah.
I think it's Gillen is its name. She's a representative out of Long Island, maybe. So I was proud of her for that. She's only one. What else was I going to say about him? Anyway, he plays them exactly. Oh, I know what it was. Jake Tapper today. Not a Jake Tapper fan at all. Jake Tapper come out, taking up for Biden early summer, but he was coherent and blah, 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 this. It should be against the law for you to talk bad about him and you're trashing him and wrong and blah, blah, disrespectful. Made a big deal out of it on CNN. Guess what he just done? Wrote a book on how they covered it up against Biden and how terrible it was for our country. He's profiting off the same shit he was complaining about someone else saying, which was the truth. Mm-hmm. Now today, Jake Tapper came out today and said Trump was masterful last night and the Democrats made total asses of themselves.
Wow.
That's Jake Tapper. Now, someone's going to correct me. They always do. I'm sure I didn't use the wording right, but that was the basis of what he said.
Yes.
And that tells you something. When Jake Tapper telling you the Democrats are in trouble, and then Stephen A. Smith now is their number one person, and he came out on The View and said, if you want me to run for president, that tells you how bad this party's in trouble.
Right.
I don't want to be president. I'm not a politician. I'm not your guy. And I agree with him. He's not.
I think the news has changed a lot since the 60s, too. And I think that is kind of why I think that's why we're more in the position that we are. A long time ago, you just got the news. Now you get somebody's opinion of what this should be. And it all just depends on what news station you watch. Like my grandfather, love him to death. He watches CBS. That's all he's going to hear. He's not going to hear any other way. He hears RFK's bad, RFK's against vaccines, because I had to take him to, I had to ride in a car with him. So I got to hear about how bad RFK was.
Did he vote for Kamala?
He didn't vote.
Well, that's like not voting for Kamala then, so that's good.
Well, but either way, he watches CBS. So CBS talks about the measles and unvaccinated kids. And even though I think RFK said this year there's been 4 measles outbreaks, last year there was 16. So it's got nothing to do with RFK. Right. We have a measles outbreak every year.
Sure.
And it's mainly in the Mennonite community, like he said. we're still down from what we were the year before. But if you don't listen to the right things and get some sort of alternative news, you're only going to hear what they want you to hear. And I don't think it was that way in the 60s.
I agree.
Do you? Because I don't know.
What do you mean?
Well, you don't think we were force fed the right stuff by the AP, but there was no social media to back check anything.
Well, that's true.
I don't think would have been
there's something about Obama changed the law so they can be propaganda and not be held accountable.
Right.
I mean,
But the war machine got us in Vietnam.
Right.
And how much of that, because this is TV and has nothing to do with what reality, but sometimes TV sure does portray things the way it really is. If you watch the old episodes of MASH, which was the Korean War,
Yes.
the doctors saw that we were in a fake war. We was in a war we shouldn't have been in for no reason at all other than this imaginary
But the
line.
American people backed it.
Because the media.
Right.
So
That's what I'm saying.
But that's what I'm saying. I don't think that we were as divided back then because we only got what the news wanted us to hear.
Yes.
So we were all on the same page. I agree with what you're saying.
Okay, yeah. I'm just saying I don't know that the news. I'm not sure
saying,
Walter Cronkite
No.
was
I'm not
given
saying
the Holy Grail every
no,
time.
I'm not saying that the news gave us the truth. They gave us, you got one source and everybody was on the same page.
Yes, that part did happen.
Yeah.
I agree. It's funny you brung up the measles. I had a guy from Seminole call me about a deer hunt yesterday. And that's where it's all at, is in Seminole area.
Oh, it is. Okay.
And he was telling me about it. And he knew somebody that had the measles or something. And he said, it's part of, it's mostly in that community and they don't take any vaccines at all. I'm a no vax guy. I don't, and when I say that, I think there's vaccines that we should take.
Sure.
The measles vaccine, I don't know why you wouldn't take. Polio, I don't know why. I mean, things that we took when we were kids, it was a normal thing.
Right.
But there's obviously something going on to contribute to the big major move in autism that we have in this country.
Oh, absolutely.
1 in 36.
Absolutely.
1 in 22 in California, though.
Yeah.
So there's something that California is doing that we're not doing that's causing it more. But for someone to sit there and say, I don't think something's wrong. It's a man-made issue. The statistics show it. Something's happened between 1960 and 2025 that autism is blowing up. And Down syndrome, too. You grew up in Mundy. I grew up in Wichita Falls. How many kids with Down syndrome did you know growing up in Mundy?
One.
One kid. I think that I knew one kid in Wichita Falls. I'm sure there was more. You go to a school today, and there's Down syndrome kids everywhere. I mean, it's very common nowadays. Has to be something man-made.
Yes.
Something like that don't just happen all of a sudden.
Right.
Yeah. I don't know. Hopefully RFK fixes it all. But I'm an RFK supporter, and I get another car ride with my grandfather, so I get to hear about.
So he doesn't believe in him yet? He thinks he's a kook?
Oh, yeah. Big kook, even though he's got the Kennedy name, and yeah. But that just goes back to what I said earlier. Anything Trump says, these people have to be so far against, and that's what the news picks up on.
I don't watch The View. I don't think I've ever watched The View. I almost watched it today. I almost put it on this morning just to see what, because after the election day, I watched a lot of MSNBC and CNN just to listen to some bitches whine.
Just to hear
I was loving it. and I didn't watch the news from 2020, the election, up until right before our election. I started watching the news a little bit. I've been watching the Five a lot. There's a guy on the Five is the best Democratic politician they could possibly have. His name's Harold Ford.
I'm very familiar.
I like Harold Ford.
I do too.
Harold Ford has common sense.
Yes.
He's got decency and seems like a really nice man. I would really enjoy it. I would love to go have dinner or lunch with him and sit down and visit with him. Have you ever heard him?
A little bit.
He's a sharp guy.
He is.
And he's got a lot of common sense. And he's not a Trump basher. He doesn't agree with everything on Trump. But he says, this is a good deal. And this is a bad, he is a very, very good guy. And he's a liberal Democrat. And he was a representative somewhere at one time.
Tennessee, I believe.
But I really like him. He's by far the best candidate the Democrats could have. The Democrats could get a guy like him to run. And I'm assuming J.D. Vance is probably going to be our candidate. And I like J.D. Vance, and I would probably vote for him. But if I had to vote for some deep state rhino guy or Harold Ford, I would probably vote for Harold Ford because he seems to be more in tune with what I am. Because I'm a conservative, but I've got some liberal social views that I think.
Sure.
And
you got to have a heart.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. There's things that you got to do that. The hardest part of retirement for me has been, what am I going to do now?
In Mundy, Texas, there ain't a lot.
There's not. So I just give back. That's me and my wife are cooking tonight for 20 people. And, we're just give back. Go see the nursing home. Go do things.
God bless you for that, because I've thought about doing that before, but I just do not have the patience. And that's the best nursing home in the area in Mundy. Those good people. My mom was in there for a month.
Yeah.
Or two or three.
It's the cleanest one I've ever been in.
Then the people are super nice there.
Yes, they are.
And that's where your grandmother was at.
Where she finally passed away.
Yeah, they're good people over there.
So,
and when I was a kid, 12 years old, I worked for Oak Farms, delivering milk. I was a swamper on a truck. Fun job. But we used to have to go to this nursing home, and it smelled like cat piss when I walked in.
Oh, I know.
It was terrible.
I know.
And so my whole life, every time I think of a nursing home, I think about, the only thing good is they had a hot brunette looking nurse that worked there. I remember that. She was probably about 24, and the guy that I was working with, he was in love with her. And every day she'd walk by in her little tight skirt and visit with us, back when nurses wore the whites.
yes.
And that's the only thing I remember is she looked good and the place smelled like cat piss.
Yeah.
People need to visit those places more, though.
Yes. What? I wish there was more of that. I haven't been good about. I'm not a winter guy.
Right.
When it gets cold, I buckle down. I'm inside. But there's. Let me put it this way. Every time I go up there, and I've told people this, so if anybody hears this, they've heard it before. Every time I go up there, I think I'm going for them. Mm-hmm. And when I leave, I realized it was for me.
I can see that.
Because I learned stuff from those people.
Yeah.
They have no reason to lie.
No, I love talking to old people about stuff.
Yeah.
And what's happening, the old people are not that old no more that I used to go see.
Right.
Like when I was younger and I talked to old people, I was really digging into some history of stuff.
Sure.
Shit, I remember most of the stuff the old people talk about nowadays. But I can see where that comes from.
Yeah.
But that's going in and visiting with them people. Those people are lonely, and a lot of people don't ever have nobody come see them, and they need to come visit. And I'm bad about that. I don't like going to the hospital to see loved ones or nothing. I do. And my biggest fear, I don't want to go to a nursing home. If ever can say I want somebody to shoot me in between the eyeballs, I'm telling you right now, you kill me, I don't have the balls to shoot myself, but please kill me, and I'll leave you my life insurance money. Just put me out of my misery. But because I don't like seeing people at the end of life.
Right.
I want to remember people for when they had a life.
Right.
Not laying in a bed and they're riddled in just bones and skin. And so it's hard for me to do that.
I understand. I get it.
But going to nursing home stuff, when I was a swamper or the swamper on this truck, we also used to go to a house full of mentally, I'm trying to think of the nice word here to say. A lot of people had Down syndrome and mentally handicapped people.
Okay.
And the funniest thing ever was they passed condoms out all the time to these people. It was guys and girls both in there. But it was the wildest place I'd ever go. And I guess I was probably 14 years old.
Yeah.
And so when I got 16 years old, me and my buddies would drive by, drink beer, and we'd drive by there, and I'd show it to them all the time. I'd say, check this place out here. This is where all them people are at. But then you'd see them in town, at the movies and shit, and they had passed condoms out. They'd been going back and having sex. Had a lot of fun. Down syndrome kids did, I guess.
What you don't realize, though, about back to the nursing home before Jeff got perverted is that's a whole library in a person.
Yes.
And it's about to be gone.
Right.
Forever. The stories, the memories, everything is just, you got a finite amount of time. A lot of times when you get to the nursing home, you're on death's doorstep, right? So you got just a little bit of a window there to get the last couple of stories that you want to hear from your loved one or just a stranger on the street. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like, you don't know what that person has to offer. You don't know what crazy story you're going to hear from that person that hadn't seen a family member in 2 weeks.
That's what I learn all the time. I'll just go in there and sit and, I'll say hi and how you doing? And then just sit and listen.
It's that's a clean place, and it's very nice. The ladies that work there are amazing.
Yes.
Those are good people. That's by far the best nursing home in this area by a long way.
Oh, I hear that all the time, and I agree.
And my mom was there for 3 months, and I probably went over there 10 times in 3 months, maybe, because I'm bad about that stuff. It's depressing to me to see my loved ones. To go over and see somebody else don't bother me.
Yeah.
But to see somebody of my family, it wears me out.
Yeah, my mom was in there all through the COVID thing. And,
oh, wow.
That was hard.
Oh, my goodness.
And, of course, I didn't live here. I wasn't living in Mundy for most of that time. I had a really good friend from Mundy that showed me a picture one day of my dad, who at the time was 89, sitting outside of her window in a lawn chair and they're talking on the phones.
Yeah.
Because he can't go in.
Right.
And I was like, that's pretty cool.
It is.
You know, that's pretty cool.
My dad was in the Knox City Hospital during COVID.
Uh-huh.
And my hat's off to them because, man, we got a good deal. My dad, we could go and take him out. He'd come out here and have dinner. He'd go to my house and eat with us. He'd go to Andy's house and eat with us. We could come and go all the time.
Yeah.
And everybody else was locked down and mask wearing and couldn't do nothing.
But he also had 2 weeks to live. So, I mean, it's like,
Well, he lived about 8 weeks that time, though. But he
it wasn't long.
It was his last times of his life.
Sure.
But we didn't have to go through all the, because there was people dying in the big cities
100%.
that you couldn't even see.
Yeah.
You have doors locked down and trash bags around everything. And
Died alone.
What a stupid time in our life. That proves how dumb Americans are. We got bamboozled.
We fell for it.
Oh,
hook, line, and sinker.
I mean, you think about this. Tell somebody, you know what now? You got to wear a mask. But when you go sit at that table 10 feet away, you can take that mask off and you can eat and drink and visit. Oh, okay. I mean, what kind of virus is smart enough to not attack you while you're sitting and eating and drinking?
Right.
Or you can't go to mom and dad's pizza place, but you can go to Walmart.
It was a total psyop operation.
Yep. Yes. That won't ever happen again. It damn sure won't happen again in small town conservative America.
No.
Ever.
Agreed.
Me and Michelle went to Boston in that July, I believe. And we saw cars. Now, we're in Texas in July. We're back to pretty much normal. We're doing everything. No mask, no nothing. And we landed in Chicago. And it was at O'Hare Airport or Midway. It was like landing in Moscow, Russia in 1982.
Right.
Shit was boarded up and they coming over there, keep your splash guards on and this. And I mean, it's like, where the fuck did we land at? And then we got to the Northeast and we was in upstate Maine. It wasn't bad. But we went to Boston and there was cars that had dust on them, 2-3 inches thick, had been sitting for 5-6 months. These people were boarded up in their houses and shit. It was just, I was like, God, it's hard to believe there's an imaginary line where you have freedom and you don't have freedom.
Right.
And in the Northeast, some of them areas in Vermont, those people are in New Hampshire. They were just like we were in Texas. They were, no mask. But just crazy how this whole country.
Was. I mean, when all that started, I remember being in a grocery store in Brenham, Texas, and I wasn't wearing a mask. Wasn't planning on it. And I'd get yelled at by people. They'd go, "Wait, put your mask on," and I'm like, what the heck?
You were flying then, wouldn't you?
When COVID started, the airline offered us half pay, full benefits, half pay, not to come to work.
Oh, because there wasn't nobody flying.
I took it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I wasn't actively flying. I wasn't retired, but I wasn't flying.
And those airlines are contracted. They have to fly to those airports every day, right?
I'm sure there is something like that. I don't know the business side of it, but
they couldn't quit the routes though. They had to fly them.
Correct.
I had a buddy of mine that flew to Cancun, from Cancun to DFW. He was the only person on the plane.
Yeah.
Only person on the plane.
Why?
Nobody else on the plane.
I know, but why would they even
They
waste the fuel?
contracted. They have to fly. They had American Airlines had a contract, I guess, with the Mexican government or so. They have so many routes they got to take every day. I said the same thing. I said, shit, you'd be better off to charter a private jet and take him home.
Yeah.
It'd be a lot cheaper. But they had to and they had to do it every day. And I'm sure the government was paying most of the bills anyways.
Sure.
But there was a lot of flights. Me and Mom flew to Seattle that year, and it was $97 or something because there was nobody on the plane.
Yeah.
We went to St. Lucia. It was our 10th anniversary or something like that in October of 2020, I think.
Don't look at me.
What year did I get married? 21. It was 21, October of 21. It was like a 5-hour flight, mass the whole time. It was miserable.
Oh, that's terrible.
Miserable.
What if you were snacking?
Huh?
You were
yeah, you could take it off. If you
I ate a bag of Cheetos all the way to Maine.
You had to actively be eating or drinking. If you're chewing, your mask got to go back up.
Yeah, well, I get so pissed off watching them muzzle. I'm going to call it muzzle. It's a mask.
Yeah.
2-year-old kids.
Oh, my goodness.
And then getting mad when the kid is trying to pull it because he doesn't want that over there.
Yeah. And then put them on a no-fly list.
Yeah, I'd get
because
so
you're
mad
2-year-old.
at that.
Some stewardesses can be real bitches. And I know sometimes they put up with some stuff. I'm going to tell you one of the funniest things ever. We went to New York last spring, me, Michelle, and our oldest granddaughter went. We flew up there, and there was a lady in front of me. I'm on first class is usually like row 6 or 5. We're one or two behind it. I always sit at the front of the plane. If I ain't first class, I'm going to be one of those next two up. I like to be at the front of the plane. We're up there, and there's a lady in front of me, the one where there's no seats in front of them. So she was in the first row, and she's got a service dog, and she's got this little kennel. And she's an old New York woman, probably in their 70s, got jewelry on and stuff. And she's bitching and griping the whole time. And she goes, I can't believe I'm not getting to fly first class. I always fly first class. And she's bitching and stuff. And then my dog, they say he's not a service dog. I take him with me all the time. She's bitching. Well, the steward comes back, and he says something to her. And she calls him a gay. She goes, I don't want to listen to you gays, is the first thing she says to him. Well, he gets mad. And then the other steward on there, I guess she thought he was gay too. I don't know, and I don't care, but she starts in on them too about being gays. So then she flips around and she's bitching about everything. So I'm going to start fucking with her because I enjoy stuff like this. So I'm going to try to prod her along. She was like-minded. Other than her deals with the gay dudes in the plane, me and her thought the same on everything. That stupid fucking Joe Biden. I mean, she started going off on him. Shit, I thought, this lady's my kind of woman. Because Michelle's like kicking me. Just don't get her going, you know.
Yeah,
so I was going to just rile her up. They came out with a piece of paper that they was going to make her sign. It was going to put her on a no-fly deal if she didn't comply and sit down and shut up. I mean, it got freaking ugly.
Wow.
And she was pissy acting, and they weren't being very helpful to her, but she also didn't deserve any. She'd been a real bitch from day one.
Right.
But boy, she was raising hell and griping, and I thought, man, I'd hate to be I felt sorry for the guys. I really did.
Yeah, sure.
But she took the paper they gave her and wadded up and threw it at them.
Yeah,
That doesn't help you.
No, I'm surprised they didn't haul her ass off.
Well, I was going to tell you, if I'd have known that and I was the captain, should have been off the plane.
Well, once we landed, she got up and left. They let her go, but I mean, she was a real bitch.
Yeah.
But it's funny. I was going to prod her and try to really get her going, just because I was going to have so much fun with this.
Right.
And then
Got that poor lady on the do not fly list.
But then she started everything she talked about with me. She found I was from Texas, and then she knew that me and her politically were aligned the same. And then she started telling us about things to do in New York. She was nice to us, but she was a total bitch. But it was all because that dog.
Yeah.
And I'm going to tell you about dogs real quick before we get off here. I cannot stand to see an airport and see these people, these fucking service dogs that aren't service dogs.
Right.
If you've got a problem and you've got a dog, I have no issue with that. Half of them people's dogs don't need to be, they're not service dogs.
Well, Jeff, can I tell you something else?
Yep.
Half the people that get on with wheelchairs
Don't need a wheelchair?
don't need a
Oh,
wheelchair.
I'm sure of
I
that.
guarantee you that. I knew it was
We called it miracle flights because they needed one to get on, and it's a miracle. They don't need it to get off.
Yeah.
We were at Six Flags one time and been there all day long, and there was this lady with a cast in a wheelchair. And she was at the front of the fucking line, come reeling in past as they put her on, and she rode and rode and rode and rode. We got to the parking lot, and that bitch took her cast off and walked and put her wheelchair in the back of her car and walked here. I told her, she was, look at that shit. And I pointed at her. I said, can you believe that shit? I thought, fuck, I wish I'd have thought of that. But I mean, she did. She had a cast and everything. She just slid
crazy.
right off and got in there. I bet they got in free. It was her and her grandkids, I bet. They pushed her fat ass around that whole park, but she rode 400 rides to R4.
Yeah.
If you want to see my mom get chirpy, land an airplane and somebody from 4 rows back stand up and come up to there. She gets very awkward.
Yeah.
And I just kind of got to sit back and let Jeff handle that.
I say something to them all the time. Excuse me. Yeah, we don't want to get off the plane, do we? When we landed in Mexico, those people there, Michelle goes, I really don't think they can speak English. So, fucking alto, get your ass back here. But
There's an order here.
Yeah, but yeah, and then when Michelle gets chirpy, it makes me get mad, but I can't stand that shit either. If you're in the back of the plane, wait. Last question. Why don't they board the back of the plane first? Seems like it'd be a lot easier.
You know, I agree with you. It would. I don't know why they don't.
And I'm not in a hurry to board a plane.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, but
Like if I've got my seat, I'm not in a hurry to go sit in it.
It makes things easier if they board the back of the plane first.
oh, I totally agree with you. We didn't have assigned seating,
And that's that was, yeah.
so
But that's changing. Didn't Southwest fix to go to sign?
well, I've heard it is.
Yeah.
yeah, I heard it is. I don't really keep up with the airline anymore. I've been gone for quite a few years, so I don't keep up with it a whole lot. But I have heard they're going to go to assigned seating.
I always, you put them in the back. Now the big gripe is that people that are coming in are putting their bags up instead of above them, the overhead bins. That's where the airlines makes all their money. I did not realize that. Baggage is a profit maker for the airlines. $40 a bag. If everybody on that plane, what's a plane hold? 200 people?
Depends on what airplane, but it can be 150 to, Southwest, we were 175.
Okay.
That's basically.
That's $70,000 every flight just
Yep.
in luggage. If
And
they charge $40, they don't.
They don't.
Right. But the ones that do charge $40 now. They say that's the big money maker is the surcharge and bags and surcharges on tickets and changing them and
Yes.
shit. That's where they make all their money.
Yeah.
But I never have understood why you don't put the people on the back first.
Oh, I agree with you.
It's just orderly. Makes sense to me.
It does to me too. And I really don't know the answer to that. We were, I remember standing at the front of the airplane greeting passengers as they come on, and they'd show you, they'd never flown on Southwest before, and they'd show you, hey, where's my seat? And I said, it's like the movies.
Find one.
Have fun.
Pick your seat. It used to be a big thing too. I used to fly Southwest a lot, as I'd always want to get my boarding pass in the top 20 because I could sit where I wanted to sit. I wanted a passenger seat. And a lot of times back in the day, it wasn't full all the time, so it was just two people anyways to ride. Now every plane is packed,
jam full.
We were coming back from me and Andy were flying back from somewhere, and there was a lady in first class across from us, and she got mad because a guy in the back of the plane opened up the overhead door and put his baggage where first class was. And she was fucking, I guess she thought she's hoity-toity,
Yeah, right.
I was like, lady, if you got some shit, you'd be flying a private jet. Don't act like a big,
Right.
Guy just trying to put his luggage up. All right, let's get off here. I appreciate it. It's been a very enjoyable time.
I've really had a great time, guys.
Over
it was
2
nice
hours.
meeting you both, too.
Yes, good guy. Hope to see you around. I'm going to take you tornado chasing with me this year.
I want to go.
Boy, that's a treat.
Oh, I'll tell you afterwards. I got an announcement with you. You are going this year.
No, I'm not.
All right.
Bye, everybody. Watch for deer.
Bye. Yeah, you are Eric's going to film.